Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Back to pass, pocket collapsing. Allen squirts away from it, throws to the end zone, and it's caught for a touchdown. Dawson Knox with the 12-yard touchdown reception. He caught it in the end zone on his way back to Allen, who scrambled out to the left to buy time. Snap by Ferguson, hold by Martin, kick by Bass is up, and it is good. So with 3:43 left, the tie has finally been broken. Bills have the lead, 23-20.
Well, they're leading the Big Ten in passing, and I believe they're close, if not the top in rushing. They're top 10 in the country in offense. They're top 10 in the country in defense. They're the only team that hasn't trailed all year. They've scored 80 points in the fourth quarter. So this is probably a top 10 football team we're facing, right? It's one of them. They started the season unranked, so they're not maybe getting the due that they're supposed to get, right? I mean, other people can lose to a bad team and they'll keep them in the top 10 because whatever they started in the top 10, but Coach Nettie did an amazing job. Quarterback's absolutely fantastic. They got playmakers. They're good on special teams.
Good morning. Welcome into Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. What's up, DB?
Oh, nothing.
Nothing.
Just enjoying this weather.
You do like a brisk morning.
I do. It's a lit now. I mean, you said child abuse. I think that was a little harsh.
It's physical. It's hard. It's cold.
It was 54 degrees in the house this morning.
It's a little chilly.
Yeah, a couple windows open. And, I mean, it's 4 o'clock, so it's 4:10, so it's...
You get below 60, I start having problems.
No, I mean, that's not ideal.
Yeah. It's not great.
It felt good to me.
Sure.
But there's a little girl at home.
Yeah.
And who knows what was going on in her room, because she goes to bed the same way at the same time every night, and there's 54 blankets around her, and she likes the ceiling fan, and you can only barely see her face. And she has her little ice cold water Yeti. She pokes her head out, and she goes, "See you in the morning." Every night. So I don't know if she can feel a thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's 54.
That's pretty chilly.
It is.
That's pretty chilly.
It is.
What's like your ideal interior temp?
So in the bedroom, I don't close the window in the winter. So it's just whatever it is.
Cold.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that door stays shut. In the house, it's just on 70.
Okay. That's not bad.
It's on 70 all year round.
Yeah.
Doesn't change, except for when I forgot to flip over to the heat last night, and it was 54. It's fine.
Okay. So this isn't normal behavior.
No. It just is byproduct of foolishness.
Okay. That's fair.
Sometimes that happens.
I
like
can
sometimes I'm
appreciate.
just not, I'm not thinking clearly, and that it's an unintended consequence.
I can appreciate consequences of foolishness.
So when the air conditioner went out,
over the summer.
Yeah, we were together in Big Ten Media Days.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a setback.
How hot did that get?
So the beautiful company gave a loaner.
Yeah, that's nice.
Installed it, and then ordered the new one, and then had to do the energy efficient thing. But I had no idea they cost that much, so I'll pretty much I don't know.
Yeah. Do you remember the highest temperature it got in your house, though?
84, maybe.
Oh, that's not terrible. I mean, it's hot.
85.
It's hot, but
it was literally for only a day.
That's not bad.
So, in the basement, it stays super cool. So we got a new, like a thing on the wall that, like,
the thermostat.
I had to read the manual like 6 times.
Oh yeah, the fancy ones are
pretty complicated.
Yeah,
the hold and the stay and the day and the awake and the sleep, and I'm like, man, I'm just a 70s guy. That's it.
Like born in or temps of?
Both. It's ideal in my life too. Although today I'm gonna ride with today though.
Yeah, no,
58. What do we got today? 58, Shane?
High 58.
And he said tomorrow's gonna be a little colder.
It's gonna get colder, but it's gonna warm up more.
What are we looking at for Friday?
Like 70s, like low 70s.
Damn it.
Sorry. It's nice out.
That was fine. They don't want to throw the ball anyway.
It's good for the
we're in
for the spectators.
Freeze warning between 1 and 9 tomorrow.
I know. I need my sprinkler guy to come over.
Yeah.
If I could just figure out what he said to do downstairs in that that other room.
Beats me, man.
I know there's a knob or there's something down there that I have to do. I can turn off the knobs outside.
Yeah.
Something inside that's screwing with me. Maybe I should Google.
Googling is helpful. You can learn a lot.
Well,
YouTube videos, Google.
I sure hope so.
let's not overdo it.
No YouTube videos. That's too much.
Well, remember when I tried that with my garage once, Shane? That was great.
It's a fun challenge.
On a recommendation of the listeners.
I don't YouTube DIY anything,
Bro.
at all.
I felt like I was never going to be able to get out.
Call a guy.
I'm like, thank goodness there's a door that leads to my house.
I can't do any of that. I'm totally useless.
Yeah.
That's all right, though. It's all right.
So it's like, I like today. Coming off a big fat L.
Almost as useless as the New York Jets.
Or the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Well, I wasn't going to bring that up.
They were due.
Yeah, they'd been playing really well.
They were due.
They had to give up a run eventually.
Yeah. I know you kept wanting to say Brazier too, but that's not really.
That's a different thing.
Yeah. Did not get off to a good start. It always helps when you throw strikes.
It does. Throwing strikes is helpful. I've heard this.
And Lindor was.
I mean, listen, the Mets have been playing well for a reason.
Lindor was doing Lindor things.
MVP, if not for Ohtani.
Yeah, and miraculously, so full disclosure, I'm doing this thing with Underdog Sports. And it's really fun, and I'm kind of learning as I go.
The higher-lower deal?
It's just like higher-lower. They give you, it's like daily fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
It's really what it is. It's daily fantasy. The only thing you can't do is, same-game parlays. So Underdog, gives you all these things. And I've joked about this before, but I'm for my first 5.
Yeah.
And so I said to Ravi, Shane, I go, here. I just flipped in my phone. I was like, do some things. See what you like. So we processed. It was do we want field goals from the Jets? Was it Breece Hall anytime touchdown?
Mm-hmm.
Aaron Rodgers pick, Mookie Betts to score. There's everything.
Mm-hmm.
Total bases for Jesse Winker, right?
Yep.
So I have very little to do with this. You're just bouncing ideas off.
Yeah. But I'm picking all the.
Yeah, you're picking all of them.
Yeah.
I don't even have my phone like you do.
Yeah.
So we lock it in. I screenshot it so I could remember what you did. And once Aaron Rodgers threw that pick, I was like, wow, all we need is a Breece Hall anytime touchdown. And then I started spazzing out because, of course, he got pushed out of bounds at the 5 a couple of times, inexplicably. Once at the 2.
Yeah, not great. Not great.
So I give a random, who, a.k.a. you, I'm not really a random, but I mean, kind of.
It's fine.
The closest I've ever come to winning $10.
Yeah. Well, you won more than that.
Yeah, what was the multiplier you did?
13.
So 130?
Yeah.
That'd have been cool.
Yeah.
For $10?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they gave me the credits to start. How about that?
That's nice.
Is that fun for you?
No, it is fun.
Because you just literally taught me yesterday what the multipliers mean.
Yeah.
That was kind of weird. I felt like I should have known.
Maybe.
I didn't ask during the launch.
During the
Well,
onboarding.
there were so many people from around the country at these radio stations.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, face for radio. Ooh, face for radio. Ooh, face for radio. No, I'm just playing. These people are just big personalities.
Yeah.
And a lot of them were FM people.
Really?
Yeah, I was like,
Get out of here.
that.
AM. Talk radio, baby.
Yeah, so I got home from practice, obviously. Watched baseball and football and a little IU and a whole lot of that email that I got from Big Head Jed.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Digging into it?
Man, it's a lot in there.
You know what I was digging into yesterday?
What's that?
I don't know if you remember this as we were going off the air.
I almost said something super inappropriate.
I had an idea.
Oh, gosh.
Did you
like an epiphany of sorts?
Kind of. Because you were
Is this the one that spawned from Benning Bites?
Yes.
Okay.
Because you were talking about actual points.
Yeah, leaving points on the field.
Versus expected points,
Yes,
right? Because
yes.
that's what we're talking about, the analytics of expected points.
If I had Stu Manji's number, I would have called him. But
Yeah.
I didn't feel like DMing him because he doesn't really tweet to me a ton. So I'm not sure if he's vibing. He may not like me. I don't know. But sometimes he just shoots me stats.
Mhm.
He's more of the other people guy. But
He's
I feel like
he's pretty good though at the
I
number
know.
stuff.
I feel like I should have claimed him because he and I started talking first.
You got to like get custody of those things in the
I
divorce.
know.
Come on, man, you've been through that,
I don't know. He may not ride with me because I told him this was years ago that I was afraid of helicopters.
Oh,
And I think he's like all in on
I'm also afraid of helicopters. I think
choppers.
a lot of normal people are afraid of helicopters.
That's why he don't ride with you either.
They're scary.
But anyway, so I started to hit him up about expected points. I know there's charts out there. But the whole leaving points out on the field thing was kind of getting me.
So I had this epiphany, right? Because I was a big.
Hold that thought.
Yes.
Remember when I said a couple of weeks ago, I said, this is anecdotally,
Mm-hmm.
but it feels like Indiana does a lot of work late.
Yes.
Right? Like they pull away.
Coach rule. 80 points in the fourth quarter.
That's a lot.
I did the numbers on that too.
That's a lot.
It is a lot.
And I even walked through the games that I had seen so far. I was like, they pulled away from Maryland.
You know how many of those are in the Power 5 games? So they're 6-0.
Yep. And there's 3 Power 5s, right?
3 Power 5 games. I have the numbers for the Power 5 games.
So of the 80, I'm going to say I should know this. I'm going to go with 17, 10. I'm going to say 40.
52. 14 against UCLA. The score was 28-13 in the fourth quarter.
Yep.
That's a 2-touchdown game against the worst team in the Big Ten. Ends up, maybe it's Purdue.
Right, yeah.
Maybe Purdue, but one of those two teams is the worst team in the Big Ten. They get 14 in the fourth quarter. Looks like 42-13. Looks like they kick their ass, right?
Yeah.
Maryland, 21-21.
That happened fast.
With a minute left in the third.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Basically on the doorstep of the fourth quarter. 21-21. Indiana scores 21 points in the last 16 minutes. 42-21. Looks like
they got the 17 against
looks like they kicked their ass.
Northwestern,
27-24 in the fourth quarter. Indiana scores 17. Ends up being 41-21 or 41-24. Looks like they kicked their ass.
I was well aware.
I mean, those are those are the actual numbers though.
But RAL, there is something to finishing late.
So that was going to be my question.
Yeah, there's something to that.
Because I think it's really hard, especially against teams that we don't think are very good.
But it's not what you think. What do you think I think it is when I say there's something to it late?
So to me, there's one of two things. Either it's finishing strong or piling on late.
I think that's a team that has taken on the persona of their coach.
So they want to pile on.
They're going to pile on.
That's how I take it as well. But
that's my opinion. Like I said, anecdotally.
I want to acknowledge it could be the other thing. It could be
where they're
strong.
just in such supreme shape and wearing people down that
or
the dam finally breaks.
Or they've got a little bit more depth than the teams they've been playing.
Yeah, I don't think that's it. I think they have taken on the persona of their coach.
Yeah, they enjoy rubbing people's face in it.
Well, did you hear the backhanded compliment yesterday, BTN?
From Signetti?
Yeah. It's a good football team. They do a lot well. But at the end of the day, like most things, it's about us. Now, I would say that all the time.
Mm-hmm.
All the time. People ask me about the school down the street. That's cool, man. They're explosive. They're really, really good. But we just got to do it. That's just what people say.
Yeah.
Right? So I get it. But he just says it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one of the things that makes him unique, especially at, 63 years old.
Yeah. And usually you kind of associate that level of bravado with a younger guy.
Yeah.
Or a guy that's been doing it for a long time at a high level.
Yeah. So do you think he would remember me that I was the little brown dude that just like stood in the middle of that pile when he had there were only like 6 people. So they're literally, I got a scene set this for you fine folks out here. So
you're talking about media days.
Yeah, media days. It's early.
Yep.
And the throng isn't there yet.
Right.
There's probably they may have been the first or second school there. So nobody's really even in there. This is probably like 8:30.
They were there early.
8:45.
And it's not like Indiana has a huge amount of football.
So there was only like a handful of people.
Yeah.
And so I walked over there because I saw Adam Rittenberg. He was the only one that I recognized.
Mm-hmm.
So he's kind of just doing the thing with the tape recorder. And so I'm like, oh, man, I want to go hear this. Because he kind of walked in with some.
A little swag?
A little. That's a little strong for a
Okay.
63-year-old person. So
What kind of person, DB?
He has swagger. He has juice.
yeah. Yeah. Where was I going with that? Oh, so yeah. So there's a little itty bitty media thing. So I'm listening.
Mhm.
I'm captivated. But I'm like, shoot, man, we got break. I got to jog it on back over there. And Sasha's giving me the stink eye. So I'm like, I'm coming. So I slide into the seat. And I'm like, man, did you hear that? Like, no, man. I didn't hear that. I was like, man, this cat's wild.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go back over there. So next break, I go back over there. I look at Rittenberg. I was like, this is going to be interesting. I can't wait to hear him take the podium. And there
she took the podium.
And there it was. And I was like, wow, this dude is not messing around.
Yeah.
So I remember like a 3-year-old just like running and telling.
Yeah.
Coach Rule, because we saw him
right after that.
Yeah, half hour later.
Yeah.
I was like, man. I was like, shoot. No disrespect, but that was the game I was worried about all season. I said, I might be. He looked at me like a stone cold killer. And I quote, it's Indiana. He's a good coach. What's he supposed to think?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, all right, never mind.
Well, that's fair. Yeah. Good point, Coach. Well, I guess I'll move on.
That's exactly how the whole thing started.
Yeah.
With me hyping him up, saying that he stole the show in
Indy. Yeah.
Because he did, like, quietly. And now here we are.
Yeah, if he had been later in the day, I think it would have gotten more run. But it was before Lincoln Riley. It was before Nebraska. It was before all those teams came in that the national and regional media were there for. Yeah. And Indiana, despite our good friend Ken Bikoff that we're going to talk to at 7:45 from Peegs.com, being a great member of the Indiana media, not a ton of Indiana football media. Like that's not a robust industry the way it is here in Nebraska, you know? And so I think it did kind of fly under the radar a little bit. Also coming up on the show today, we've got our friend Steve Gardner covering baseball for USA Today. We get caught up on the playoffs. Mike Schaefer from Husker 24/7 at 9, and then Chris Solari covering Michigan State for the Detroit Free Press at 9:45. They've got a big one.
My sister used to work with the Free Press.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Yes, she did. Lived in Detroit.
Detroit?
Yes. I think she
Are you a Detroit or a Detroit?
Okay. Clear the mechanism. Detroit. I'm
Detroit?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had to think about that for a second. Like, what would I just say naturally?
Yeah.
Detroit. No, I'm Detroit.
I have my whole life, and then one day last week, I think when we were talking to the Pride of the Lions guy, I said Detroit, and I go, what am I doing? Just sounded weird in my own ear.
Detroit basketball.
All right, Jalen.
No, I watched it was weird because it was on TikTok.
Yeah.
I just saw Chauncey Billups. He was telling a story about Michael Jordan.
Good old Chauncey.
Yeah, how in pregame he told somebody he was going to give him 50, and he gave him 52. And then everybody was kind of just telling their Jordan stories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love those. Those are my favorite.
Yeah. And you know, Chauncey's kind of tough guy.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't give a lot of credit.
No. He's like, yeah. We're like, oh, shoot, what'd you say to that man in pregame?
Yeah.
I can't remember who he's talking about. And he's like, man, I didn't say anything. I don't know what I said.
Have you heard the KG story?
Oh, yeah. KG tells it funny.
Yeah, he does. Because KG's funny.
He was like, man, I told him. Was he talking to J.R. Ryder?
Yes.
Yeah, he's talking to J.R. Ryder.
J.R. Ryder.
Because I'm a J.R. Ryder guy.
He's like, man.
I told you that, right?
Man, don't talk to that man.
Yeah. No, and then he said once Jordan got going, he said he had like 17 in the third. He was like, man, keep talking crazy to that man. Like, no, but I'm a big Isaiah
Ryder guy.
I'm a big Isaiah Ryder guy. It's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that T-Wolves team.
Yeah.
I told you I went there in 05, 04.
Oh, when
watch
they
the
were,
Lakers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I even got a Minnesota Timberwolves. This is backwards. I got a mini ball.
Really?
Mini basketball, yeah.
There you go.
That was the one Caleb was the first shake folks up with.
Really?
So, yeah, it was the Minnesota T-Pups ball.
I did
and I didn't want the nubs to wear thin.
Yeah.
So I told him he couldn't take it outside, but that didn't last long. then it turned into a little slick ball.
Kids aren't real good listeners.
Nah, plus he acted like he has some skills, so I just let him do his thing.
Trying to hoop people up.
Yeah, I mean, he was 4. He was like 09 when he was like really doing it, but yeah.
I still remember when he was like freshman, sophomore, and you're telling me like, oh man, this kid's pretty good at basketball, whatever. And I was like, DB, he's going to be a football player.
Yeah, he needed to know that. Not his brother, maybe just the opposite. So anyway, like when he left Indy,
Yeah.
and the girls were in the back seat, so like they had their pods in and stuff. But
Yeah.
I was repiping the media days through the Bluetooth,
Yeah.
and I just was like, this dude it's a little different.
I think you got to be a little different in Indiana, though.
Okay, Coach Rule, that's fine.
I mean, you do.
I understand that now.
It's like that and Purdue and some of those other places. Like, you got to be a little different.
Yeah.
It's hard. I mean, it's hard to win traditionally at places like that.
How much would the folks in
It
West
was
Lafayette?
hard.
How much would the folks in West Lafayette have to pay Monken?
Probably not that much. I think Monken's a guy.
He's got a good deal, though.
He does have a good deal, but I also think he desperately wants a chance to prove
Do you?
himself. I do.
Because he comes up about every 3 years and nobody ever hires him.
I know. I think that's why he would take a job, even for if it's not crazy money, because I think he believes he deserves a shot and hasn't gotten one because he's at Army. Like, I mean, legitimately. This isn't like a Jamie Chadwell where it's like you're going to have to pay that man because he's real comfortable. I think Monken wants the shot, and he's not. I think he's mid-50s.
Yeah.
He's not getting any younger. He probably hears the clock ticking pretty aggressively at this point. Because getting your first power job in your mid-50s isn't that common anymore, despite our guy Signetti at 63. You know? Like you're trending the other way with your Ryan Walters and Kenny Dillinghams and all those guys.
Yeah, for sure.
And how old was Lanning when he got that job? Like 36?
Yeah, he was in the Tomlin zone.
You know, what I looked up yesterday randomly, how old do you think Matt Campbell is? Remember, he was the head coach at Toledo before he got the Iowa State job.
Matt Campbell is 44.
He is exactly 44 years old. I feel like he's been coaching forever.
Do you want to know how I knew that?
How's that?
This is weird. But when he came to visit Westside last year, he had just gotten a haircut.
Yeah.
And he was clean shaven.
Yeah, so he looked young.
And I just was like, wow, you look way different in person than you do on television. So I Googled immediately. That's a 100% true story.
I believe you. You know how old he was when he got his first head coaching job?
Let's go 28.
He was 31 years old. That's crazy.
Yeah, that's tough.
But that guy, I mean, as we discussed.
You're like a little peacock. You're like NBC, the logo.
What?
Matt Campbell's pretty good again this year. Is Matt Campbell a good coach?
He
I've
is.
been telling people he's
I
a
get
good
a little
coach.
I get a little defensive about Matt Campbell.
Yes, you do.
I do.
Yes, you do.
Because people act
very,
like
very, very angry.
people act like you win 9 games one time at Iowa State and it's just easy now.
Yeah, you were very, very angry.
It doesn't get any easier
okay man.
at Iowa State.
Guess what?
There's some places.
He's okay.
He is okay.
Let's not act like Puffy Pete over there.
I'm good.
Surprise, surprise.
I know, right?
Puff up.
It's a Madonna.
Mad about it.
Pouty pants.
Put some respect on his name.
Nah, he's out here balling.
He is out here balling. You think that he learned how to coach again or that he forgot in the middle?
Nah, but
Nah, it's just hard at Iowa State.
wow.
I mean,
Are you carrying the flag this morning?
there's some places it gets easier to win once you get rolling. Iowa State's not one of them. Iowa State's not one of them. Nebraska might be one of them.
Shout out my man, Matty Sternberg.
I don't know who that is.
It's my buddy. His kids used to
Who
play
that
with our
is?
kids.
Todd Doxson,
to-
Iowa State great.
He used to be my vet, and then he got big time.
Miller North guy. I don't know if you knew that.
slinging bets.
That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla, Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Played a lot better. I think the biggest thing is, even to go back to Illinois, like it was a couple crucial mistakes in crucial times, and we didn't tackle at the level we wanted to. That's a team. That's an outfit. That's an outfit that went out there against Purdue this week and scored 55, 59 points. I mean, so Altmaier's an excellent quarterback. So globally, I mean, it probably wasn't terrible, but it just, we have a standard for the way we play. We can't, if the other team's better than us and they score, that's fine. But like the way the film looks, the way we hit, the way we contact, the way we get off blocks, the way we communicate should be better. And I thought on that night, that was a tense defense that just wasn't quite playing to the level they were capable of. And had we known Tommy was hurt that badly, I think, maybe he doesn't play that first drive, but Tommy's such a team guy. He went out there and battled, and we adjusted. Sierra's done well since then.
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi, Lulla. In a couple weeks, 2 weeks from Friday, in fact, make sure you're joining us for the next live breakfast ahead of the UCLA game. That's November 1st. What's up, DB? Why are you making faces?
Finish what you were going to say.
Well, you're making faces. You're interrupting
Don't let me deter you.
You're always deterring me, DB. Come celebrate Diwali with your favorite Indian person here on November 1st at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. And come out for our live breakfast with me and DB. We'll be here prior, getting ready for the UCLA game. Make sure you get signed up at eventbrite.com. Search for Hurrdat Sports Radio. What's up, DB?
Are we going back to the show now?
Anytime. You know, anytime you're ready.
God, I want to punch you.
I just want to let people know they come hang out with us.
Oh.
I know you love hanging out with people, DB.
I do.
You love being in public.
I am. I'm getting better.
You were pretty good over at game day the other day.
They were hilarious.
You were personable.
So I was in and out yesterday.
I know, that was quick.
Did you get blood work?
No, not again.
Oh, because it was quick.
Yeah.
Oh.
I did it the first time.
Yeah.
You got to get a blood work and everything, but it was just shooting me up.
Yeah. It was quick.
It
I'm
was.
a big Chris guy.
I like Chris. Chris is cool.
Chris is cool. He dabbed me up too after he took his gloves off.
I asked him, I go, hey, I got a little tennis elbow thing happening. You got anything for that? And he's like, I think I can get you something.
He is like
those peptides, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't see where did you see Sky?
I didn't, but she called me later to let me know that my blood work came in.
Yeah, what blood work was that?
So they do the full
time?
panel. So they do the testosterone and the PSA and stuff, and they check
I better
that
call her back.
live, real time. She said, at least in my message, she said she'll just give it to you when you come back, so you don't have to worry about it.
Oh man, she didn't sound great on the voicemail.
Oh, I got like the voice to text thing, so I didn't even hear her.
I need to install that. I was on the field, like I was at practice.
Yeah.
So I didn't see it till I came back.
It came up as a number I didn't recognize.
762.
Yeah, so I didn't pick it up, and then
Not that I remember numbers, but
I got the voice.
That was the area code.
Yeah, I thought it was out of state, and then
Georgia.
It was Buford, wasn't it?
Oh no, Rayola call you?
Like our guy Dylan,
because it's really Rayola
and Dayton.
Yeah, Dayton does look good.
But no, it was we were in and out. I took like 2 minutes.
Did you want to high five me on the drive by?
I did.
I just stick my hand out the door. I wouldn't have been able to reach you.
We got the same color cars now, though, so if we like rubbed paint, we'd be all right.
Nah, I'm not into.
Not trying to get any more issues there.
Not into swapping paint, bro. What?
Wow.
What is he talking
Let's get
about?
to TK on the Hurrdat hotline before we get in any more trouble. TK, what's going on? What's going on, bud?
Coach, what's up, buddy?
Good morning, fellas.
How we doing?
Have you guys ever seen Young Sheldon?
No, that's Micah's show.
Just TikTok clips. That's it.
Hey, he loves him some Young Sheldon.
Because it's always on at the gym.
Yeah.
And it seems like something that's like ruining like the character arc of Sheldon in Big Bang Theory because they like make him a human in the show, which isn't the point.
Yeah. So the guy that you like, you ask about all the time. If he ever gets good, I'm going to tell him you were his biggest fan before he was even functioning at a decent level. I do appreciate you always checking on him. He's a big Micah guy. TK's big Micah guy.
Hey,
TK, that's his show.
He got some pretty good highlights.
That's his show. He loves that show.
Yeah, when he's not having touchdowns taken away because he's acting foolish.
Dude, this dude hit the Heisman the other day.
Can't always hit home runs. Sometimes we all have blind spots.
Dude, I put a mark on his 3 fingers.
So I'm about to say something that you guys, I promise I am the real TK.
Uh-oh.
This game is going to come down to how the back sevens play. And believe me, I about puke when I think that. But it's the truth.
You're a big Hog Molly's guy, man. Aren't you? Don't you like living in the trenches?
That's the only thing I was ever athletic enough to play, DB.
They're going to
have to love it.
So this is about Nebraska's back seven?
I think it's about both back sevens.
Okay. Talk to me.
Can Nebraska's back seven give the D-line time to rush the passer?
Okay.
And can they make one-on-one tackles when they run the ball? And then can their back seven hold up on the edge in the run game? I don't think they can.
You talking about because of the stature of those DBs?
That and they just don't seem like they really want to hit anybody like that.
Okay. That's duly noted. We'll see. The backs.
And
so
then
the trench warrior here for the back seven.
TK, they're going to excommunicate you from the Brotherhood.
I know it's tough. I'm gonna have to go into hiding.
Usually the only time you're breaking us off calls is if we say something bad about the O-lines in America. Then it's like you're the staunch defender. Hey, it's not the O-line, those backs, man.
It's a honest day's work. You know what that means? That's me.
All right, what do you got on Monken?
I agree wholeheartedly with Ravi because I've seen it in action that people are just they are so averted from, we're going to have to run the flex bone if he comes. People hate it for some reason because they don't understand it. But I saw it firsthand with my college coach who turned around a college program that had one winning season, I think, in 30 years, and immediately into making the NAIA playoffs, and he had to take a lateral job to be able to prove that he could get a Division II job. So the flex bone, there's just some hatred out there for it, and people keep giving jobs to these dumb spread coaches when they need to be hiring Jeff Monken.
You know what's funny, TK?
It's ridiculous.
You know what's funny, TK, is
these dumb spread coaches.
Like, Monken wouldn't even run a true flex bone if he went somewhere else. He's running that because he's at Army.
Yeah, and it's not like we don't see triple option every week with RPOs.
Yeah, it's the exact same principles. People are just too dumb to see it.
And half these people haven't even watched Army this year.
Yeah, because they do throw.
They can actually throw the ball.
Yeah,
no, I know. Yeah.
He's modernized the offense a little bit because he's finally got some guys that are able to do it. Like, he's a really, really good football coach.
All right, TK, enjoy that pump.
We'll see you guys.
All right, buddy.
That's a appreciated call, TK. Yeah, listen, Monken's a really good football coach. I'm a huge fan.
How about the back seven talk?
I get what he means. Like, I get it, but
I will say this.
What's that?
This game is much more about Nebraska's defense than their offense, in my opinion.
I would agree. I do think Nebraska's offense is going to have some opportunities, which I think is maybe what you're getting at.
Yeah, I just don't know if zone is the way to go
against Raiola.
Yeah, because he's doesn't want to make a ton of mistakes. So if you give him areas to throw to, he's really good at that. What I think is going to be the next evolution in his game is winning against man.
Yeah. Which, I mean,
like letting it rip. But I mean, were you understanding what I was saying yesterday? Like, another year in this system where there won't be so much talk about slim margin of error and, take care of the football, and we want to go +7 and we were a minus whatever it was last year.
Yeah.
Like, that's been ingrained. So as a first year guy, you're just naturally more cautious.
100%.
As they achieve more, he'll do more.
And also,
that's my opinion.
I agree. I also think when you've got a less veteran defense, when you can look at it and say, hey, we do need more out of you.
Yeah.
Because I do think there was probably a conversation at some point, because it's the conversation Rule was having with all of us kind of through the offseason, was, hey, if we just give our defense a chance, we'll win a lot of games. We didn't give them a chance last year. So if Rule's saying that publicly, how many times have we said it? If he's saying it to us, he said it to his team 100 times before that, right? That's been ingrained in Dylan to be like, hey, just keep it on the tracks. That's your job this year. Keep it on the tracks. Take care of the football. Don't put our defense in bad positions, right? As he grows, you're right. He's going to let it rip. He's going to take more chances.
Yeah. That's just my thought process.
Fully believe that. Coming up next, we're going to talk to Ken Bikoff about those Indiana Hoosiers from Peegs.com. We will get into seeing what he thinks about the start that's been red hot for the one Kurt Signetti. That's DBM Ravi. We'll be back with more Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Omar Cooper split to the near side, 2 receivers to the far, 3 actually, and here's Rourke. Hands it off to Justice Ellis on a delayed handoff. He pounds his way to the end zone. Does he get it there? Yes, he does. Justice Ellison with a terrific hard-nosed run on that play, and the Hoosiers have the first score of the game.
Wrapping up hour number 1 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're joined now by Ken Bikoff of Peegs.com covering Indiana. Ken, how are you this morning?
Doing great. How are you doing?
We are hanging in there. I feel like we've come a long way since we talked to you this summer because it was during a golf tournament. We were out on the course. And the optimism, we went from, well, he's had a lot of success. He's brought his staff. They're intact. There's some know-how to big noon kickoff. Like, if you can give us the Cliff Notes version between that conversation when you had with you then and now, what's been the main, how'd we get here this quickly?
Well, it's been a ride, no question. You know, everything that Curt Cignetti talked about during the offseason is certainly the same kind of thing that we've heard at IU with multiple coaches when they've come over. You know, there's going to be a culture change. There's going to be, we're going to raise the standard. Things are going to be different this time. And I'm very much a wait and see kind of guy because I've heard that same story, you know, over and over again. And so I was, you know, when you have mixing a bunch of players in together, being able to get those guys to gel quickly can be a challenge. Well, Curt Cignetti is backing up everything that he promised in a big way, and they've been lucky enough to stay remarkably healthy. Knock on wood for the Hoosiers, but they have solid quarterback play. Everybody has bought in. The defense is as good as we've seen since at least 2017, and maybe before that. It has just been a team effort to just completely turn around a program that had won 9 games in 3 years. And now you're bowl eligible by the first week of October. It was it's been breathtaking to watch. And you can look at the teams that they've beaten and everything that goes along with it. People talk about their strengths of the schedule and the best look. Indiana hasn't always gotten the job done against those kinds of teams. Not only that, Indiana has not played with their food. this year either.
Yeah.
They have beaten the teams that they've been put in front of them and beaten them convincingly with a very good offense, a defense that gets stops when it needs to. And it's just been a completely different program. And I'll tell you right now, as somebody who's covered this program for 20 years and, I've been watching for a lot longer than that, it's a little disconcerting to Indiana continue to be successful in a big way. And the biggest key is Curt Cignetti has changed the culture of his team from hoping to win on Saturdays to expecting to win on Saturdays.
So let me ask you something, Ken. We're watching this evolution for Indiana, and we're just getting inside the numbers. I'm just finishing the third rewatch for Maryland, and Indiana scores late. Ravi brought up the stats. Coach Rule talked about it yesterday. 80 points in the fourth quarter, and we were trying to decide: is this just a team that's got depth, that's kind of wearing people down, the dam finally breaks, or is it the reflection of their coach, we're a team that seems to want to step on the gas and kind of bury you? It seems like it's more the latter in this film study, getting ready for the broadcast on Saturday, that it's a reflection of how Cignetti wants, I don't know if sending messages is the word, but they definitely don't let up late. Is that accurate, or is this a team that's built on just being able to play harder longer?
Oh, well, it can be a little bit of both, but I think it is, like you said, it is kind of that latter because of the fact that, Cignetti is so matter of fact and so businesslike. That he already has this famous quote of, I win, Google me. And my thing is that it ain't bragging if you back it up. And he is here to show people that he belongs, that Indiana belongs, that Indiana is not what it used to be, and it's different under him. And he does not let that standard lower just because, well, we're up big or we're comfortably ahead late, so people can kind of relax a little bit. He's not willing to do that. And I think part of it, too, is he recognizes that in the past, maybe here at this program, that it's been a little bit of a case where things go well and people relax a little bit. He's not allowing anybody to do that. And it is just really just interesting. Just his style of coaching is so matter of fact, so focused that I just think that he's sold his players and obviously his assistants who came with him. They feel that same way, and they're just not going to let up until the final gun. And that has been key. And then everything that goes along in the strength and conditioning staff, the weight room, all of that goes along, because Indiana plays a lot of starters for a long time.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be interesting here on the back end of the season if that is going to continue to be the case. But Indiana had a perfectly scheduled bye for exactly the middle of the season to kind of recover and prepare for the rest of the year. It's going to be really interesting.
Like I said, getting ready for the radio broadcast, you look at the player participation sheets that come out on stat broadcast. It's like that's what kind of gave me the inkling that he stays on the gas. They score late with starters.
Yes. Yeah. That's exactly it. And, on offense, they do have – he keeps the starters, but there's so many guys that contribute. You got 3 different running backs that could score and run. Basically there's no drop-off between them. You have so many options at receiver that your leading receiver from last year, Donovan McCulley, who was seen as the star for the team at the end of the year, he enters the transfer portal, and he's not going to be missed just because there's so many guys have stepped up for him. And so that, to me, is going to be, just part of the interesting thing here in this back half, though, if they are able to keep up this level with guys playing so many snaps.
We're talking with Ken Bikoff from Peegs.com. Ken, from the outside, and I think from the national perspective, everything's kind of been really positive surrounding the Indiana program so far this year, just because of the hot start. But locally and internally, are there any areas of concern for you as you kind of get through halfway through the season?
So here's the weird thing, and the answer is oddly no. One thing is that they have stayed very healthy, but this is a team. If you want to pick them apart, if you want to say, oh, that's a concern, this is a concern, that's a concern, it really is things like at the end of the first half, they let down for a drive. They were a little sluggish. or maybe they gave up on a couple of big plays during one of the drives, but then they raised that level back up. That's why I say when I say it's disconcerting, this is an Indiana program that hasn't had a ton of success, and so they've not only won their games, but they've won their games comfortably and taken care of business. They haven't, really run into a pile of problems. Maybe the only thing that I might throw out there is that the kicking game can be a little inconsistent in terms of kickoff, but really that's about it. That's the weaknesses that we're seeing right now. Now, the interesting thing will be when they play against teams that have a much higher talent level. If you look in Indiana's schedule, they have played what I consider peer school, people on their level. But now when you're going forward and you're talking about dealing with Ohio State, Michigan hasn't had the greatest year, but that's historically Nebraska, even the same way, even though Indiana, beat Nebraska a couple of years ago. They certainly are playing at a level that a sustained level that we haven't seen at Indiana. And now, if there is real adversity, how will they handle it? Yeah, the question is, we don't know, but only because they haven't really faced a whole bunch of it yet this year, which is a credit to Signetti and that team.
I remember asking you about some of those weapons, and Ellison and Surratt were one, and I liked Surratt, especially with his experience and watching him last year. When you look at this offense, because, Nebraska fans will try to kind of boil down handicapping this thing. If it's about offense versus defense and the way that Indiana moves the ball, is it the fact that they limit their turnover? If you had to choose, put them in order. The fact that they don't turn it over. I think they put 5 on the carpet, only lost 2. I think they've only thrown 2 interceptions. Rourke's only thrown 2 interceptions. Is it the efficiency in the passing game? Is it the balance in the run game? Or is it the fact that you don't turn the ball over? Because you look at the numbers and you think shot plays because of the gaudy receiving averages, but it's not really like that on film.
Yeah, and if you ask me, is it the pass game, the running game, or taking care of the ball? The answer is yes to all three of those. I mean, that's what it's been. Curtis Rourke has been fantastic. He's making throws that are great. He's got a patience that is incredible. He plays like the senior that he is. He's very slippery too, because when he's getting pressured, he does a great job. He isn't a scrambler. He's not that kind of guy, but he's just one of those guys that when defenders are coming, he'll all of a sudden just bend over and guys will go over him, and he'll squirt out. In the run game, and also Rourke with those 2 interceptions, he threw them on back-to-back passes, and that has been what he's done. With the running game, whether it's Tyson, Lawton, Justice Ellison, any of these guys that they run out there, they all run hard, they finish runs, and they do a great job of squeezing out the extra yards at the end of the way, and then they take care of the ball. So all of those, but that balance is what makes it really tough, because they are able to hurt you in a lot of different ways, which is why they put up the kind of points that they have. And then there is just like a quiet killer in Kurt Signetti, in that he isn't going to let up. He isn't going to let go. And Mike Shanahan, they're going to keep going. They're not looking to embarrass anybody. It isn't big shots. It isn't super flashy, but it is creative enough to keep you guessing. And they just have just kind of this singular focus that we're going to put these points up and be on our way. It's been fun to watch. And again, this back half of the season is going to be really interesting because, again, they've stayed remarkably healthy. And so that has been a huge key. But as each week has gone by, confidence has grown without arrogance coming with it.
Ken Bikoff from Peegs.com. Ken, we appreciate the time as always.
Thanks, Ken.
Thanks.
More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. be back. We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Well, I mean, I think you're going to need every corner you got versus this outfit. I mean, they got great wideouts, and they've got great run after catch guys. They can go get the fade. They can. I mean, really, this quarterback is playing as well as any quarterback in the Big Ten when you watch him, if not the best. I mean, he sees the field. He knows what you're in. He gets to the right spot. So we'll probably need all those guys. Tony has different packages, but just even in the rotation, right? I mean, they scored 80 points in the fourth quarter. That's just fantastic. I mean, 80 points in the fourth quarter alone. I think it's like 80-17. They haven't given up a first quarter point, I don't believe. So excellent defense with tremendous edge rushers and dynamic offense. So, we'll probably need Sierra a lot. We'll need Tommy if he can go. Again, Tommy's still, I feel good about it, but it's not a done deal. Like, he's got to get through the whole week of practice. And last couple of weeks, I've told you I thought he was going to go. And just, for a corner, that's a tough injury now. To be, it's one thing to be a D lineman and play, 3/4 speed. It's another to be a corner.
Kicking off hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. If you're driving to work, make sure your eyes are focused and straight ahead on the road. As the driver, you've got one job to do, and that is to drive. I will say it is a little hard to stay focused on this show sometimes because I got our group chat popping off on
whose group chat?
From the sports team. They're at the Coaches versus Cancer thing this morning.
Oh yeah, did anybody buy me anything?
I don't know. I'll ask them. I don't know if they've done the auction yet. They just started, I think.
So the auction is online, right?
Oh, maybe. I don't know.
All right, I have a question before you do your thing.
Okay.
At first blush, who comes across as bigger?
Okay.
Crutch or Mac?
I'm just gonna say Max. I know Max like 6'10".
Crutch is a big dude.
I know he's a big dude, but he's not quite as tall, right?
Yeah, well, it's close.
I thought Crutch was like 6'7".
Crutch is a big dude.
He's a big dude.
Like, you see him up close, and it's like, huh.
Yeah. No, I understand that, and that's why
I think it's just cool. How about Coach Hoiberg's the little guy?
That's what I know. The guy that played in the NBA.
Yeah.
The 6'4" guy that played in the NBA is the little
he's
guy.
the little guy.
I also, that's why I talk all my nonsense about the way Omaha runs their basketball program from a distance, because I wouldn't probably do that.
Yeah,
to
Crutch
his
would
face.
put it on you.
That's fine. I'm just
and he's a football guy too. So.
I know. I would love it if he put it on the recruiting trail here in town. That's what I would love. If he would do that. I'm just saying.
Ravi here for low key hate.
How many times you gotta get beat by guys from your own city playing on other Summit League teams?
We still have about 17 days before hoops, okay? Before we break out the Matt DeMarinas, Jacob Padilla parties.
Those are my favorite. Those are my guys.
Yeah, I have to ride with Matty on that one because at least he'll protect me.
I'm just saying.
Jacob will slaughter me.
Oh, yeah. Jacob will just knife you right on the way by. You won't even know what happened.
I will see him today for NEB Preps.
You'll just be like, hey, what was that?
Yeah.
No,
he's elbow deep in volleyball too, though.
He is.
We were pretty impressed with Smooth just beating the brakes off of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
They
might be all right. That might not look like a bad loss for Nebraska.
So, but SMU's been doing that though.
They have.
Yeah. So I mean, they're
good.
Yeah, they're top 15. So,
well, for Nebraska, the way they beat most top 5, top 10
and I think
teams,
Nebraska. I saw the rankings yesterday. They held it too, right? Nebraska.
I believe so. Yeah. I just, I don't know.
I don't know.
I get so frustrated by the Omaha basketball
Why?
thing.
What's the matter?
We'll get to it. We'll get to it in a couple of weeks.
Can I just ask you something off the top?
Yeah.
Who's the best team in the country in basketball right now to start the season?
I know Kansas got number 1. I'm having a hard time not thinking UConn still.
Yeah.
I know they lost.
You might say Duke.
I mean, Duke's super. They're probably the most talented team.
What about Whitney?
Houston?
Yeah.
I think Kelvin Sampson is one of the best coaches in the country, bar none. Like that, he's incredible. Yeah. I think I go UConn.
Okay.
As much as I hate.
Well, if Creighton's 2 in the Big East and they're top 12 in everybody's poll,
yeah,
probably UConn.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you're in everybody's top 11, 12, but you're second in your own conference.
Yeah, because UConn is a wagon. As much as I hate to admit that, because I hate UConn.
Yeah,
we'll get into more hoops as we get into the next couple weeks here. But
and I can almost guarantee we'll be having these conversations in February. No, actually January. It'll be. Man, do we really know who Auburn is? Do we really know who Alabama is?
Who's the best team in the country right now?
Because they're the usual suspects again in the SEC, and I still
the SEC is really hard to evaluate.
I do think Auburn and Bama will be pretty good.
I don't know how good a lot of the teams they're playing are. Kind of like Indiana.
Yeah.
Don't know how good some of those teams are.
Speaking of the SEC, our main man Adam McClintock just tweeted out. By the way, give him a follow at CFB_professor. Shame on you if you're not. The biggest year-over-year defensive efficiency improvements in the SEC, and he'll do this for all the conferences. Guess who's number 1?
Year-over-year?
Yep.
Kentucky.
Very good. Bravo. Very good guess, but they're 4.
Okay.
Wow, that's pretty good. Because Kentucky hasn't been bad defensively under Stoops.
They haven't. I felt like they took a little dip last year, and then they were better. They're a lot better this year.
That's a good shot you took.
Also, Stoops was at Florida State for a little bit, so I have affinity for his defense. I mean, I almost want to throw out Vanderbilt just because they've.
That is incorrect.
I don't think that's it. But who is one?
Texas.
Oh. Okay.
No, that's not that obvious.
No,
because they were pretty good last year.
I forgot about them because they weren't in the SEC last year, so it messed with my brain as far as the year over year. But anyway, yeah, no, that they were really good defensively last year, so that is a little surprising. That
the next 2, so you have 1 and 4. For the next 2, I will give you 4 guesses.
I would. So I have a weird one. Is Tennessee's defense a lot better?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Tennessee is number 3.
Okay.
So you have 4 to get 1.
Okay.
That's pretty good odds.
Yeah, but I'm pretty dumb sometimes. So
there's only 15 more teams.
What could go wrong?
No, I mean, but four. I mean, 4 guesses.
There's a.
You've got Texas at 1,
So
Tennessee at 3, Kentucky at 4.
Can I go? I think I might be overthinking this. Can I go Oklahoma?
Incorrect.
Okay. Let's see. Ooh. A&M.
Incorrect.
Oh, I felt good about that one.
Down to 2. 1 to get
Down
2 to get 1. 2 to get
Okay.
1.
Oh, you know who was atrocious defensively last year?
Who's that?
LSU.
Incorrect.
Dang it. I
They're
felt good
still
about
atrocious.
that one. I know, but like it's improvement. It doesn't mean you're good.
Yeah.
And they were god awful last year.
Sit in your wheelhouse. You're going to be very mad at yourself.
Is it Ole Miss?
That is correct. At number 2.
There you go.
This dude on his last guess. Wow.
You say in my wheelhouse, I goes, oh, that's my boy Leno.
Yep.
That's my guy.
So you're over here. Texas 1, Ole Miss 2. God, my voice is raggedy. Tennessee 3, Kentucky 4.
I feel good about Tennessee and Kentucky getting those without help. I feel good about that.
They come up all the time on the show. Do you want to shoot your shot and go with the 5th and final?
Ooh, they come up all
the
time.
time in the last 3 weeks.
South Carolina.
Arkansas.
Oh, yeah, I do like Arkansas.
Well, I mean, who are they?
Yeah,
They're so weird.
they are super weird.
So you know how we talk about Dable and Sirianni and Fireable.
Yeah, guys that end up on hot lists even.
How weird is it that both Pittman and Napier currently are in better positions this season than when they started?
Yeah.
I mean, you could make the case both coaches are in better position than when the season started.
Certainly Pittman is. I think that because I don't think they.
You just made the case for Florida yesterday.
I know, but I don't think they want to fire Pittman.
You do think they want to fire Napier?
I think they came into this year being like, yeah, I mean, you remember what happened with Willie Taggart a couple years ago at Florida State? They went into that year being like, yeah, we're going to find a way to fire this guy. And deservedly so. Willie Taggart's not very good at his job. But I think they already came into this year at Florida saying, yeah, we're going to find a way to get rid of Billy Napier. I agree that he's been dramatically better, and Florida has actually gotten dramatically better this year under him. I don't know if they're going to end up winning enough games to save his job. But I think in terms of whether or not they get fired, Pittman is in a much better position.
Okay.
Napier should be. I just don't know if the tide had gone too far on him already, that it just doesn't matter.
Most likely today.
To this day?
Aranda, Napier, Pittman.
Aranda.
Kind of been quiet.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody who's down there in Baylor, and they're like, yeah, they've already decided, like the fans have already kind of turned the tide. They just want Chadwell.
Careful.
On Chadwell?
Yeah.
Why is that?
Something's amiss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't put your finger on it, or you just don't want to say it yet?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if it's interviewing. I don't know what it is.
Oh, this is the Bieniemy thing you brought up. Why hasn't this guy got a job yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't believe when he went from Coastal to Liberty. That was one of the strangest moves. And I get it's way more money. But that no Power 5 team with the amount that he's won wants to even look at him.
Oh, it's weird.
And there's some bad Power 5 teams that need a guy that – because he's kind of, I think, shown already a version of – not that Monken would do exactly that, but kind of an off-the-beat offense a little bit that an Auburn, I think, would be really interested to – or Georgia Tech when they came open. I thought Georgia Tech would have been a great spot for Chadwell.
And you look up, you know what Georgia Tech's record is?
4-2?
5-2.
Yeah.
Crazy, isn't it? They got a big one. I know you want to like him.
I think I kind of like their coach. I
give you props.
Yeah.
You're like, hey man, you did say you thought Georgia Tech could be pretty good in the summer when we were talking to Phil Steele.
Yeah, like I think they're okay.
No. You missed the opportunity. You could have been like DB, man. It was a pretty good call on your part. But no.
Hey DB, it was a pretty good call on your
No,
part.
too late. Man.
You want some flowers?
That's like the dude that's like,
flowers.
hey, You know, it makes me feel good when you hold my hand or give me a hug. Do you want a hug? No, you do. It defeats the whole purpose now. I had to stop it.
You don't hold hands?
Get away from me.
No.
Are you like an interlocking fingers guy, or no? You just don't hold them like this? You got no interlocking fingers, like when you're holding hands with Jay?
I don't think so.
You don't interlock the fingers?
No. The only person's hand I hold is Zoe's.
Zoe's?
Her fingers are too little.
You can't. You got tiny little baby hands.
Knock it off. Am I an inner? Can I pet that dog?
Can I pet that dog?
Can I pet that dog?
Can I pet that dog? No. Can I pet that dog?
Have you seen the original video of that?
Yes.
It's a bear.
Listen, can I just tell you something?
Yeah.
Everything that he has on that.
You sent to him?
Yes. Yes.
No, I just didn't know if you'd seen because
I've done it for 12 years.
The video, like that sound gets played with a million videos, right?
But
the original is hilarious.
It's incredible
because it's bears.
He's now
not like Chicago.
By the way, you need to be following Adam McClintock. He is now tweeting out.
He's the GOAT.
So I like putting his stats with what I see.
Eye test?
Yeah. So let me go to something else because we're talking about coaching openings.
Hold on, before you get to coaching openings.
Why, Ravi?
Because we started to get to
breaking news?
No. We started to get to this like an hour ago, and we got distracted, as we do sometimes. But I do want to talk about the analytics versus what we see. Because you were talking about this with your actual points versus expected points.
Okay.
And we never got to it. Okay. We'll get to coaching opening. You know I love coaching openings. We'll get there.
Okay.
We got another open segment after this. We're okay.
Shame.
We're okay.
He's put a.
And of course, if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you.
Exactly.
I couldn't understand what
that is beautiful. Play that again for Ravi, because that's how I'm feeling. I'm in my feelings right now because he just put a pin in my balloon. Play that for him again, Shane.
And of course, if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you.
What'd they say? I can't hear it.
Oh, that's okay.
No, what'd they say? I can't hear it.
No.
DB, what'd they say? I'm having a hard time understanding the clip. What is that?
No, you're exactly right.
Heisman? You're doing the Heisman? Like Micah? Is that where he learned it? Doing the Heisman on people?
Really? You guys see? Keep encouraging him. When I'm in jail.
I'm not encouraging him. I just called him foolish for doing the peace sign on the way in.
Yeah. Dude, there's a reason he's got a bruise on his arm.
Hey, Micah, quit taking touchdowns off the board, all right?
No, they didn't take that one off the board.
Not the Heisman one. They took the cheetah one off the board.
They play today, too.
Do they?
Yeah.
They're going to do all right?
I hope so.
You think so?
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. So we were talking about this yesterday because you're trying to figure out, hey, at what point – I heard it. I was trying to make you say it.
Childish. Wow. Ravi here for not wanting a partner.
You want to hold hands?
What happened? Man, dude screwed up again.
What?
Wow. I almost fell for it. I was almost the old banana in the tailpipe. Like the low latency feed video that the officials couldn't do replay on. What? How do you get the bad version of the truck?
You can say anything once, Damon. It's fine.
No, I tried that.
I'm
just telling you, that's a misnomer.
I didn't know there was a bad version of the truck.
Yeah, like they put that out as a statement.
Was that the one from Amazon last week?
Yeah, it was Seattle on the punt return.
Like, yeah, we didn't have
It was the low latency feed.
We didn't have that angle. It's like, what? What? I thought you had all the angles. The truck literally has all the angles.
The old low frequency banana in the tailpipe trick.
Where did we get the angles if not from the truck?
Well, I'm mad at you because you tried to get me fired. So do your analytics thing again.
Nobody's trying to get you fired.
That's okay.
I got
a call yesterday from a guy that's looking for a job. He would be a very good fill-in.
Your ass better call.
Yeah. Like, I'm dead serious. I was supposed to call Bill and I forgot.
It's all right. We can remember today.
Bill's probably in Bermuda.
He was here yesterday.
Conquering the world on some deal.
He was here yesterday. That's all I know. He? I don't know about today, but he's here. Yeah, he was here yesterday.
I miss him.
I think college football and football in general is kind of on the early-ish end of their analytics revolution.
Yeah. Because, so you did listen to Bing Bites yesterday.
Yeah.
Because I'll be curious. I am curious going forward.
Because, and it reminds me of, because I was a big sabermetrics Moneyball dork in like the early to mid 2000s.
Still a dork, but
yes,
go ahead.
But it was about different stuff back then.
Yes.
I didn't say I stopped being a dork. I can't. And there was, I don't know if you remember, there were certain facets of the early Moneyball stuff that didn't end up working and people abandoned them.
Yep.
And the one that really stuck out to me that I think might end up being the corollary of the actual points versus expected points.
Ooh.
The take the points versus what is the math tell me I can get here was the closer by committee. You remember that?
Yes. Very well.
Closer by committee was this, hey, don't spend money on a closer, assemble together a bunch of high-level performing relievers on cheap minimum deals and then just roll them out one after the other.
Okay, but listen to me, though.
Yeah.
So do you know what I think? I'm glad you picked that one because I'm curious to hear where you're going to go with this. Mm-hmm. But I will say this. Be careful with this now because the rules caught up with that philosophy. So the numbers are skewed. So because now you have minimum batters faced.
You do, but people abandoned the bullpen the closer by committee well before that. Now, middle relievers, they changed with the rule change more than anything.
But the guys can't get hits. They're only seeing a pitcher for one at bat.
Yeah. They abandoned the closer by committee thing probably by like 06 for the most part.
Tell the Mets yesterday that scoring was a problem with the bullpen.
Because they just looked at it and they said, hey, there's obviously something different here that isn't being represented by the numbers properly. And that's how I feel about the expected points.
Okay, now, so before I let you shoot your shot in this last 5 minutes, because that's just basically about all you ever need. But if
5 minutes can be a long time, man.
And of course, if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for you.
Listen.
Some people might say it's too quick, but it depends on who you ask.
Exactly. It's all subjective. Anecdotally, are you in agreement that you feel like people are leaving points on the field every week?
Yes.
Like this has become a thing now.
Yes.
It's like, why not just – because it leads me to believe when I always say, like, where are all these good kickers?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sans what we saw last night.
Right.
Wow. Doink.
But in the NFL in general, the kicking has gotten
they just line up and kick 60-yarders like NBD.
Yeah. I do agree that people are leaving points out there. And
although, as TK told me, one of those guys is, or was it Husker? It might have been Adam. They have one of those guys at Pitt.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's way good.
There is, I think there's something not being represented by the analytics. And I don't know if it's when you take a play in a vacuum, it's going to be different than the averages that play or that number came from, right? So you can say, hey, if we go for it on 4th down here, the points expected on this drive are all of a sudden 4 instead of the 3 I get from my
Is this
field
different
goal.
than different finishing drive rate? Like, it's the expectancy?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because they attach a number of points to it, right?
Yeah.
So
I need to ask Dumanji if we're cool.
So you have this thing where
he's going to be like, where's this coming from?
Hey, if you go for it on 4th down in this down and distance from this yard line, then the expected ending points of the drive ends up being 4. But there's a couple issues on that. Number one is time and situation, right? There's some times in situations that are baked into those numbers where the defense, doesn't necessarily have to get a stop there to win the game, right? Where, hey, they're down 2 scores. The defense is kind of trying to work clock as much as they are trying to stop people. And the offense is desperate, so they're being more aggressive on 4th down, right? So that's a factor in there. The other thing is it's very much like the averages versus a single moment, right? The average tells you, you'll get 4 points. The average tells you, all these relievers can get outs in high leverage situations. But if you're in a high leverage situation and you need 3 outs, what we ended up learning long term was, hey, you need the one guy who's mentally prepared for this role.
Because
not all outs.
One of the few things that analytics cannot tell you is they don't factor in emotion, which is what they're meant for. They take emotion out of it.
Right, but sometimes you have to factor it back
100%.
And there is not all outs are created equally, just like not all game situations are created equally. Right? If your drive expectancy is 4 points, but you only need 3 to win, the 3 is more valuable than the 4 in that situation, right? Yes, you'd love to score a touchdown and win, but the 3 becomes more valuable than just 3 points in that situation. And I think what you're going to end up seeing is people valuing taking points and reverting away from so heavily relying on the analytics to say, oh, but if we go for it here, we're going to add a point of expected value on this drive, where it's like, no, real points are more valuable than expected points. You may almost have to have like a multiplier on the real points versus expected points. If you say, hey, I can take 3 points right now, in the expected value, that you may have to weigh that more heavily.
Yeah, I'm vibing. Do you remember the question I asked our guy from Washington a couple weeks ago after the Rutgers deal?
Mm-hmm.
I said, hey, how's the fan base philosophically with fish?
Yeah.
Because your fan base, like, they have to be willing to play that way.
100%. And here's the other dirty little secret about
You know what I mean?
Yeah. They have to be okay with seeing it play out
I've
that
seen
way.
he did it with theirs. Like,
yeah,
that's kind of his MO. But that's a lot of these young hipsters. Like,
yeah.
I don't mean hipsters like
no, but the young and up and coming head coaches.
Oatmeal and tree hugging. That's not what I'm talking about.
Avocado toast.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing though with analytics, is if you don't do it every time, like, you have to be committed to it.
Yeah.
So either you do it every time.
Like the guy in high school 15 years ago that
never punted, always did onside kicks. Yeah. If you don't do it every time, the averages are different. You have to be committed to doing it every single time. Otherwise, it messes up your averages, and the actual points, I think, become more valuable again.
Could you believe that DeBoer didn't go for 2 to make it 9?
No.
Like, that seemed pretty simple, but I see that all the time now.
All the time.
Interesting. I got some openings for you, potential that I want to get to.
Let's talk about some of those, because I do love good coaching carousel. That's DBM Ravi, Lulla, more Hurrdat Sports coming up next.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. We will be back.
We will be back. We will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
You know, we were a huddle cadence team, right? And we switched this year to a clap to allow us to be louder on the road. Now, we still had 2 false starts at Purdue. We're still not perfect. I mean, we're far from perfect. So, you know, you get down there in the goal line, and you're trying to run the power play on 4th and 1, and you're just kind of sitting there like, hopefully no one false starts, or hopefully we don't get it. You know, so. I just think we were more prepared. We used crowd noise the whole camp. So I think the noise in and of itself is better, or preparation for that is better. And the team just didn't really know us or know, I mean, I think when you go on the road, if you have a team that actually really cares about each other, and if you have a team that really wants to see each other, be successful and is there for the team, then you have a chance to win on the road.
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here on the Pillar Exterior stage. DB,
what up?
You wanted to get in some coaching openings.
I do. But my man Andrew, he's like he said growing up, I had an Isaiah Ryder, East Bay, Funk Dunk poster in my room. I'll never forget the fact that I was a big J.R. Ryder guy.
Yeah.
I told you my buddy Brian and he's a huge Niners fan, by the way. Good guy. Huge Nebraska guy. I remember he was the first guy I knew. Mm-hmm. He was thinking about this way ahead of time. His license plates, and just think how many people would want this license plate.
Yeah.
Says 255 wins. Like, he got it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so anyway, we would pick for NBA double dribble and stuff. We would pick like all-star teams. And he's kind of a fringe guy, but there were 2 guys that I always took that didn't have great overall stats in the game. Isaiah Ryder, who was good, and Damon Stoudemire.
Oh, yeah. I like Damon.
Yeah. I would always – he was little and left-handed. I just liked the way he looked on the game.
Arizona.
He's a Damon guy.
That
was back when he was playing for Portland.
Oh, see, I liked him back with the Raptors when they had those sweet jerseys.
Yeah. I had a Raptors jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah. I sense it. Let's change with my thoughts on Toronto, but I still love Vince Carter. Anyway,
the jerseys are still sweet.
Yeah.
Just not visiting anytime soon.
So
it's like old school day. That was an old drop. I don't know.
You just found it?
Yeah, I just found
it in there.
It's only funny when he's after you, not me.
Oh well, the turntables have turned.
Anyway.
So the DJ can't spin.
I guess not.
So my main man, right on Q Husker, X's and O's, sent me a DM. And I was like, hey, that's exactly what I was going to ask you about when you wanted to get into your analytics thing, because I 100% think you're right. And I would encourage everybody to go back and listen to that segment. Because are you a fan base that is prepared for not taking the points?
Yeah.
And a little bit of a precursor is just hope that Nebraska doesn't fall into that team.
Yeah.
As the season wears on.
Yeah.
Get the points. Because in the Big Ten with all these close games,
you're going to need them.
You're going to need them.
Absolutely.
Take the points. So hopefully they can get the 3.
I think with and Denny brought up a good point.
Denny as in Denny P?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he goes, he's been talking about this for a few weeks. He says analytics fail on predictions, especially, he's talking about when you're using like AI logarithms and stuff like that. And I think what I'd like to make a distinction there, because analytics are really good at large scale, long-term predictions, right? They're really, really suspect in like individual situations, single game situations.
Yeah, because it's counterproductive to what they originally were designed for.
100%. Like
it takes emotion out of it.
It is also, you're using a large data set for a single individual play. And the definition of these analytics and everything like that is there's thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of these data points. And a bunch of them do not go your way.
Oh, I know. I'm with you.
A bunch of them. And I get long term. But again, that's why you have to do it either every time or none of the time, because and rely on it situationally. Because if you're going to allow analytics to be a decision tool for you in individual situations, then it's only going to work out in your favor if you are fully committed to it. That's literally the whole point of Moneyball, is you can't half-ass the analytics thing. You either have to be all the way in on it or you're all the way out. That's why you trade Carlos Pena and you play Scotty Hatterberg and whatever, right? That's because you can't be half in, half out on analytics.
Oh, that's a great.
So like if you're not doing it all the time, it completely disintegrates the use of analytics.
Yeah. Remember when Pena would get on base like 3 out of every 4 times in Tampa, but would never get hits?
Yeah.
It was amazing. Like, what happened to this guy? He looks so yoked. Why doesn't he hit the ball? He's not hitting it far, Mr. Singles. Or who's old boy that they just retired? He threw out Kansas City Chief that the Padres or Royals that the Padres will ever pay. Oh, Eric Hosmer.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're just some guys that are like, they just defy. I mean, that dude couldn't hit a ball in the air.
Yeah.
Shout out Eric Hosmer.
Still had like a, 11-year career?
So do you know why I like him, though? He always seemed like he was living his best life. He gave 2 cares.
Just out here feeling it.
Yep. So anyway.
Coaching openings.
This is from Brett McMurphy. This isn't really coaching openings per se, but it may give you an inkling because you asked me a question about the first guy that I'm going to ask you about. Would he keep that job? And I said, it is actually quietly a pretty good job.
Okay.
We're going to play a game.
Okay.
Winning, losing record. And if so, what do you think it is? These are all coaches in their last 13 games.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
All right, let's do it.
Nina Ross. Come on, Nina Ross. I'm just playing. Little Joe?
Fat Joe?
Never mind.
And the Terror Squad?
You weren't ever really a craps player, right?
I got nothing.
I was going to make a joke, but I see lots of people playing floor games. Never mind.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Some cultural
Do I not
are more apt to play
the
certain
typical
games.
demographic?
No,
of a
you strike me
player?
as more of like a baccarat guy. It's a pie gal.
It's a wrong part of Asia.
Good at math.
Somebody call Wyatt.
Okay.
Coaches.
No.
Knock it off.
Coaches.
All right. Mac Brown, last 13 games. Winning or losing record?
Losing record.
What is Mac Brown's record?
6-7.
Mac Brown is 5-8.
That was pretty close. I'll take that.
5-8. Could you see Carolina moving on from Mac Brown?
100%.
Okay.
And that, I think, is a very good job.
Very popular coach here.
Yeah.
Sonny Dykes. What is Sonny Dykes in his last 13 games?
Ooh. 7-6.
Sonny Dykes is 5-8.
Oof. Okay.
Now, Sonny Dykes is relatively fresh.
Yep.
You don't move on from Sonny Dykes, or do you move on from
I
Sonny
don't think
Dykes?
so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Here's your fave.
Yeah.
Hugh Freeze.
Ugh.
What is Hugh Freeze in his last 13 games?
I want to go lower just because I don't like him. I'm going to say 5-8, though.
5-8.
Yeah.
Would Auburn move on from Hugh Freeze?
Yes. I think so.
Tough job.
And he's not.
Auburn has to be, and I should have said this 2 years ago. They have to be careful. They're kind of in no man's land.
And he's not likable. Like you're not going to go to bat for that guy.
Okay. All right. So Auburn.
Yeah.
Put that on the board.
North Carolina, Auburn.
All right. Lance Leipold. Last 13 games.
5-8.
5-8 is correct.
Yeah. Kansas should not come open.
Kansas is not moving on.
Should not come open. Don't do it, guys.
All right. Billy Napier. Last 13.
Well, he's, 3-3 this year. That gives me six. They were bad. I'm going to go 5-8.
They're 5-8. It's very good, Ravi.
I'm noticing a pattern here. I do think there are more moving on from Billy Napier.
Okay. Now this one's interesting.
Okay.
Because he came up yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And our national guest said, certainly you're not moving on from this guy because I still feel like he's a pretty good coach.
I think Florida's a harder job than North Carolina, by the way. I think Florida is sneaky a harder job than people realize.
Oh, I don't think I could ride with that.
I think Florida's a harder job than people realize.
Now, you're not the state school, but you've managed to outraise them in money.
Yeah.
Florida's revenues are greater than Florida State's.
I know. I think Florida's a harder job than people realize.
Okay. Here's another one.
Okay.
Just talked about him yesterday. Lincoln Riley. What's Lincoln Riley in his last 13?
I'm going to say 5-8.
Lincoln Riley's 5-8.
I don't think you move on from him, but I think it's closer than people realize.
No way.
Lincoln
Riley's. Now, you know what? He's a pretty good coach.
He is a pretty good coach.
All right, quickly. Deion Sanders.
Better than 5-8. He's 4 and. Oh no, he is 5-8.
He's 5-8.
Yeah, because they only won one last year.
Does that job come open?
If he decides to, so probably yes.
Mark Stoops, your boy.
They had a rough end of the year last year. 5-8.
5-8. Kentucky's not coming open.
Should not come open.
Give you last one, because people call our Marcus Scott.
Mm-hmm.
Scott Satterfield.
Ooh, 5-8.
5-8. That job coming open?
Maybe.
It's an interesting year, isn't it?
It is an interesting year, and I think that's an okay job.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. will be back. You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Yeah, it was an important game today, especially after the way we played last night. And then they outplayed us pretty much yesterday. You know, they came out aggressive and they kept putting it on us. And it was a quick turnaround, but we've done that the whole year. We get punched in the face and we continue to find ways to get back up.
Wrapping up hour number 2 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla here at the Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. We're joined now by Steve Gardner. He covers baseball for USA Today. Steve, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Good, Steve. Good. Listen, I'm a Dodgers fan, a diehard. I grew up a huge, this is random, Pedro Guerrero fan, 50.
Mm-hmm.
So I always try to refrain from just asking our smart national guys questions about teams that I cheer for. But when you look at this team and kind of how they're made up, and you obviously have yesterday in the bag, so I get that. But when you were looking at these playoff scenarios, was this a team that you thought health-wise could get to where they are now pitching the way that they've pitched with the bullpen?
Well, I mean, they only needed, they've only played one series, so getting the bye was important to get their, the best they can to get healthy. But, this is a team, I certainly did not expect the bullpen to throw all of those zeros, consecutively and be the strong point of the playoff run so far. So, no, this is definitely kind of a surprise. And, the Dodgers team, we know the top of the offense, top of the lineup, great offense. Can they, propel the team forward throughout an entire playoff run where they have series after series and get to the World Series? I think that is possible, and especially with the way that the pitching staff had been pitching. Now, you got that bullpen game. I think the Dodgers would be fine, if you asked them before the series, if you could have a game that you're definitely designated as a bullpen game in Game 2, and you leave home and go to New York with a 1-1 split, I think they'd be fine with that, really. Just try and win a game in New York and then come back and finish off the series. So, yeah, this is a team that certainly has the talent to be able to do what they need to do to get past the Mets and get to the World Series. So while the extent of the success of the bullpen has been a surprise, I don't think their overall success has been.
Okay, so full disclosure, going into the playoffs, there are a couple teams I didn't want to play. And I was telling our listening audience, it's primarily because I think watching these guys as often as I do, I don't always love their fundamentals, and especially situationally, but they've been able to play a little bit of small ball as they've got the top part of their lineup going, which has surprised me a little bit, right? Like bunting guys over and then getting key base hits.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm like, oh, that's nice. How sustainable, or how much is it undersold that Dave Roberts, who's off maligned, is willing to do that to get by in the short term?
No, I think that's very important. And, Dave Roberts gets a lot of flack because of the Dodgers postseason failures. A lot of times, though, it's not been the moves that he's made or things that he's done as much as just the players not executing. And now, when he's calling for those bunts and the players are executing them, he looks like a pretty smart manager. And so far, especially, when he's managing the bullpen and everybody's going out there and putting up a 0, he looks like a really smart manager.
Yeah.
So at this point, I think, the way that he has made substitutions and called for situational things, it's working out for them. And I think Dave Roberts is a very good manager. So maybe this is the year for the Dodger fans out there where things actually do come together in the postseason.
It's the only reason, Steve, that I picked him to win the World Series, because for 65 games, I was Padres all the way to represent the NL. And right before the playoffs started, I said, you know what? I'm going to go with the Dodgers reluctantly and change it up because nobody expects them to win, and I think this is when they may be able to function.
Right. Who would have thought that a team with the best record in the National League and the home field advantage throughout would be an underdog? But
they were even to the Phillies and the Padres, right? The Padres were everybody's darling, and people like the Phillies.
Mm-hmm. I thought the same way. I picked the Phillies to win the World Series, and they just fell flat. And I had the Dodgers losing to the Padres in the division series. So you're exactly right. Maybe with somehow the burden of expectations has kind of been lifted from them, and they're playing well.
So, Steve, the NLCS, basically we've got the plucky underdog with the highest payroll in baseball, and the nobody believes in us best record in baseball. I mean, I don't know.
Steve, this is coming from the Red Sox fan, so like pop meat kettle.
Well, yeah. Which, speaking as a Red Sox fan, I want to thank you for defending Dave Roberts, because all I hear is slander from my co-host about the great Dave Roberts.
Oh,
and I'm glad somebody's here sticking up for him.
I'm talking about managing. He's talking about a stolen base. Okay,
I just needed the one.
That'll live forever. I hear you.
So let me flip over to the Mets before we get to the AL, because, hey, listen, this is a team I think we forgot how highly thought of they were in the offseason, and the fact that they just played in this gauntlet of a division. But boy, are they capable. How have they managed to get the selective pitching and the consistency that you think that they've been able to come up with the second half, well, basically since the All-Star break?
Yeah, I think Sean Manaea, for instance, has been amazing the way he's turned things around.
Unfortunately,
and become, kind of an ace pitcher. I don't know. I mean, Jose Quintana has he really been thought of as an ace in the last 5 or 6 years? Yeah. Not really. I mean, this is a team that somehow has managed to piece things together. I still can't figure out, how that starting rotation is going to continue to have the success that it has. But Luis Severino, I don't know. This is a team, all credit in the world to the Mets and Francisco Lindor too. I mean, we've seen him star in the playoffs, but you just think back to the beginning of the year in March and April and May, he still wasn't embraced by the New York Mets fans, and he's turned into be obviously one of the best players in the game, maybe the second best player in the National League to Shohei Ohtani, and he's shown it here in the postseason.
Steve, let's flip over to the American League side of things. Obviously, the Yankees get the first game yesterday. How do you feel about the Guardians' chances heading into Game 2 today?
I think they have a shot. Tanner Bybee has been their best pitcher, so and that's been the key for them. Just getting starting pitching to be solid, get to the bullpen where they have the best bullpen in baseball, and make it a low-scoring game. I think that's the path to victory for Cleveland today and in this series if they expect to get past the Yankees. But I certainly think they have a shot. And even going up against Garrett Cole, who was, is the Cy Young winner from last year. We know the kind of talent that he has. But As these two teams have shown, you play close games, get it to the bullpen, and any team can win, because now the Yankees bullpen suddenly looks like it's corrected itself and looks better. So I expect a low-scoring game, and one play could decide it.
Steve, let's stay right there, because I'm not sure which I had to wash my eyes out over. The fact that I remembered that Stanton still plays for the Yankees and can hit a baseball, or that their bullpen has actually come around. I'm not sure which one is more sustainable, but which one has to be in a series like this?
Bullpen. It's the pitching situation. I mean, in the postseason, we see so many more pitching changes and strategic matchups than you do during the regular season. I think Giancarlo Stanton becoming the hitter that we saw as the NL MVP a few years ago certainly helps them. If Aaron Judge or Juan Soto isn't having a great game or is in a mini slump or something like that, but Soto hit a home run last night, and Stanton has been great the entire playoffs, and when you throw him in there to complement those guys, that's been the problem that has sunk the Yankees the last couple of years. Is nobody's been able to help Aaron Judge. And when Judge wasn't his superhuman self, they had nowhere to turn. And this year, Juan Soto's provided the perfect complement. And when you get guys like, Giancarlo Stanton hitting home runs left and right, and Gleyber Torres getting on base, and Jazz Chisholm providing a spark too, that's what makes this Yankees team so dangerous.
All right, so Steve, if you're looking at matchups, which ones intrigue you the most coming out of the championship series as far as what you think? I don't care about TV ratings or anything like that, just the best baseball. What's the best World Series matchup?
I think Yankees-Dodgers, just for all the nostalgia of, what was it, 1978, I guess, was the last time those two teams met in the World Series. So I think that is probably the best baseball matchup. For me, you've got to have Shohei Ohtani in the World Series. I think that is the biggest draw of anything. And if you can have Shohei Ohtani on one side and Aaron Judge on the other, where you have the two MVPs, clearly the two best players in all of baseball, going up against each other. And maybe that's been a little bit of a debate this season. Who's had the better year? Is it Judge? Is it Ohtani? Put them together in the World Series. Maybe we find out then.
I'm not a huge WAR guy, but I clearly think it's Judge in this one. But here's the other thing, Steve, real quick. It's both those guys kind of got to get off the playoff schneid too. Ohtani's relatively fresh and hasn't hit with runners outside of being in scoring position, and Judge hasn't been Judge. I mean, that may be good for the psyche too.
Yeah, indeed. And the fact that those guys are due, both of them, could give us a tremendous matchup in the World Series.
That's Steve Gardner from USA Today. Steve, we appreciate the time as always. We'll catch up again soon.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
More Hurrdat Sports Radio coming up next.
We will be back. We will be back. be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
But at the end of the day, it just still comes down to being in the moment. That's the hardest thing for all of us, right? Like, how often are you guys like watching a TV show but also have your phone out? Like, I have it all the time. It's a bad habit. Like being in the moment, and so in the moment, anticipating it and then making the right decision. That's the secret sauce, and it's the difference between winning and losing, especially for a ball club like us. That everything's going to be close.
Kicking off hour number 3 here on Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We are still waiting on Shane.
AKA Ashy Larry.
He's actually here now. He's ready to go.
We've got our guy Mike J. Schaefer joining us now. Schaefer, what's going on, bud?
Oh, not a ton. How are we doing, guys?
Mike J, I like that. Is that
it's a Vikings hat, right?
It's the Vikings. I don't get a chance to see that that 3-stripe. Where'd you find that bad boy, Schaefer?
I don't know. I think it was given to me. I think DP over here in Lincoln, he just likes to buy up NFL stuff, and came in one day and he handed me the Vikings hat. I don't believe I purchased it. I'm weird about hats. Like I don't. I have I'm very picky. Like it's strange because I will wear any hat anyone gives me. But if I'm buying the hat, like I'm very picky about like what I'm gonna wear. So I don't know that I've ever bought a purple Vikings hat before. Like I think this is like the first one I've ever owned. I've had like gray, I've had black, things like that. But I think this is like the first like purple Vikings hat I've ever had.
Not a big Prince guy, not dealing with the purple, or what's going on?
You know, actually, I'm not a big Prince guy. It's scary to say that out loud. People get real mad at you for it. You know, particularly if you also like the Vikings, it seems like you should also like Prince. But I don't know. It never was for me. So I don't know. We're starting off on the wrong foot here. I feel like there's going to be people that are just upset with that, but that's the reality of what it is.
No, because at the end of the day, everybody loves Mike J.
I don't think that's true.
I do have an interesting question though, because I think they're both difficult. Are you more confident about the Lions or Garrett Cole and the Yankees?
Like which one is scarier?
Which one of your teams will prevail?
Oh, I probably feel better about the Vikings against the Lions than I do about the Guardians against Garrett Cole, if only because Cleveland against Garrett Cole in the postseason has been pretty bad. in the 3 opportunities they've had against them. Though that being said,
Lions are pretty scary.
The difference, I mean, are they?
Kinda. Like, so you know what it is, Schaefer? I get what you're saying. Their versatility is scary. Like,
oh yeah, no, I mean they have
that's what is scary. But I do think, I mean, Hutchinson's going to matter, and I think the consistency of their decision making remains to be seen. But their versatility is scary.
Yeah, they have incredible pieces on offense. They can do lots of different things. They also, I think, have an atrocious defense, and somehow we never talk about that. And now they lost their single best defensive player, their single best defensive playmaker. And it's super unfortunate. I mean, Aiden Hutchinson is a massive difference maker, and the rest of that defense is bad. I mean, Nick Mullins threw for 800 yards on the Lions defense in games they were trying to win last year. What is having Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson and Jordan Addison, Aaron Jones? Like, I think Minnesota for the first time all year is going to have their full offense. I don't know that they're just going to go light up the scoreboard, but as is what the case is all week. Everyone will talk about the Lions. Everyone will talk about the Yankees, and the Vikings and the Guardians are just sitting over here winning games and nobody notices. So, I expect Minnesota to win on Sunday against Detroit.
Yeah, but
I really do.
What you forget about that is that Nick Mullins is a baller.
Yeah. I hope to never watch him play a meaningful snap again in my life.
Yeah.
This is how dark it was before the Brock Purdy days in San Francisco. Is I was trying to talk myself. I was like, this Nick Mullins guy might not be that bad. That's how dark it got.
Someone described him as Brett Favre, but all the bad parts. And I feel like that's pretty accurate, because he will get in there and he will gunsling and he will throw and he will do all of these things. But he is the only man that I have ever watched throw an interception to a defensive tackle while both players were nearly on the ground. It legitimately happened last year against Cincinnati. He is falling to the ground, trying to throw the ball away, and he Will Levises it right to the defensive tackle 2 feet away.
Boy, how bad are they regretting that decision?
Yeah.
Hey, Mike J., let's fast forward to Bloomington.
Do you want to ask him your coaching question?
Which was it?
The North Carolina, Indiana.
Oh, yeah. So, Schaefer, we were just talking like topically about potential jobs, and we went through this list from Brett McMurphy about these coaches in their last 13 games, and all of them have a losing record. So it was Mac Brown, Sonny Dykes, Hugh Freeze, Lance Leipold, Napier, Lincoln Riley, Deion Sanders, Scott Satterfield, and Mark Stoops. And North Carolina stuck out to Ravi because he had said it last week that he thought that was a pretty good job. And on the heels of Indiana this week, is it an advantage or a disadvantage to be good at football in the perceived basketball school? Sometimes we talk about it the other way around. What about this way for you?
I don't know that it's a disadvantage, but it does seem it's more likely to be a football school that has a basketball program that is good than to be a basketball school that has a football program that's consistently good. Like, you'll see, Auburn with Bruce Pearl is kind of what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, they'll be preseason top 5 this year.
Bama.
What was it? Florida in the early 2000s, you don't think of them as a basketball program, but they won 2 titles, right?
Yeah, Bama, Nate Oates.
Yep. And so I think it's a little bit, I'm struggling to come up with like the basketball, because UCLA is that, right? Like UCLA is a basketball school to me.
Sometimes their fan base may tell you they're not sure if they're either.
Well, I don't even know if UCLA is an athletic school sometimes. Like, you think about where they sit in the country and the history of that athletic program, and then you're like, well, they should be good at baseball, right? And then they should be good at volleyball, right? They should be good at basketball, right? Tiger Campbell, my guy Tiger Campbell, had him playing pretty well for a couple of years. But
yes.
You know, like I just
paid, by the way.
That is we're way off the topic here. UCLA is an athletic program that I think will benefit greatly from the Big Ten money. But I'm fascinated like where they're going to get good at or where they're going to be competitive at besides basketball. Because their football looks terrible. Absolutely terrible.
And I kind of asked because I wonder if Cignetti came along right at the right time because Indiana basketball isn't very good. Now, they will be this year, allegedly.
Probably.
With that,
they will be this year. Weren't they going to be really good last year?
Yeah, I mean,
aren't they supposed to be good most years? And then you look it up and you're like, oh, hey, Indiana, the basketball school, has only played in a few more NCAA tournament games than Nebraska. 2013, 14? I think Indiana's played in like 5. Nebraska's played in 2. And one of those is a basketball school?
Is Cignetti coming along at the right time? Because he's brought some bravado, a little belief to Bloomington.
Yeah, I mean, we all mocked it. I don't know anyone that didn't mock it. And he brought in the right pieces. I mean, getting Curtis Rourke was a big deal. Bringing some of those James Madison guys was a big deal. I think the fact that he came in with a system and came in with a plan was a big deal. I think it also helps. They had an incredible runway.
Hang on, Schaefer. I've got breaking news. Davante Adams will be traded to the Jets.
Okay.
I'm going to say that. Davante Adams will be traded to the Jets.
Well, hopefully he runs the right routes because apparently it was Mike Williams' fault that Aaron Rodgers underthrew it by 20 yards last night.
Incredible how fast that happened. I'm sorry.
Isn't the only route that Aaron Rodgers really needs anyone to run is everybody just go to the end zone and he heaves it up and the guy comes down with it?
Yeah, so I told him
it is so remarkable.
He did that against Detroit. Was it Thanksgiving or?
Yeah.
He did it against Detroit or Monday. It was a big game. Yeah. And I'm like, I feel like I've seen this before.
Yeah. Well, he's done it. This is the 4th or 5th time in his career he threw a Hail Mary.
How about that, Ravi?
Yeah, he is. He's uncanny in his ability to throw Hail Marys. It's weird.
So I mean, all the credit to him. It's more difficult, whatever reason, between the 20s. But if he can just heave it up to the end zone, this guy comes down with it. You do that once or twice a year.
Well, as long as he knows what routes his receiver.
Why are the Jets trading future pieces for Davante Adams?
That's what I was just going to say.
Because their owner's an idiot.
That's what I was just going to say. So, I guess he helps you in the red zone, but
because their owner's an idiot and is doing whatever Aaron Rodgers wants him to do. That's the answer.
I wonder what
do they have a path to the playoffs? Like they needed to win last night to really give themselves an opportunity to win the division. I think.
Yeah, because the wild card isn't coming out of there. So you're right.
And they're a better team than I thought they were. You know, I was lamenting how bad Minnesota looked in parts of that game in London, but watching them on Monday night, I actually did come away with a begrudging level of respect of what the Jets are. But I don't know that they're a playoff team. I feel like they're in that kind of awful spot to be for your NFL team where you're like the 9th to 11th best team in your conference, where you're good enough to threaten any of the teams in front of you, but bad enough to lose to all of the teams behind you, and you finish right in the mediocrity zone. That's a weird trade for the Jets. Just a weird one.
On top, they're freaking old.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and adding Davante Adams is going to help.
Youth movement at the wide receiver core. Hey, Schaefer, let me go back to something here in Indiana because we've been having these discussions about points on the field and left on the field, and I started this a couple of weeks ago that as Nebraska gets more mature, that number will come down, and that spurred Ravi to get into analytics and money ball and expected points and all of this stuff, right? And I say all that to say, do you think is there a certain amount or different pressure on Nebraska as they go on the road, if you feel like you've left points on the field and you're not sure on your kicking game? Is that something that you could see manifesting itself in Bloomington as you look at this matchup on Saturday?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know that Nebraska is playing with a ton of confidence on offense because they're constantly in this okay, so it's 3rd and 6, and we're at the 27 going in to score. I mean, do we get aggressive here? Do we just need to get some of those yards because we got to go for it on 4th down because we can't kick a 44-yard field goal? You know, should Dylan be throwing to the end zone? Should he be just trying to get the 1st down? Like, what's the play call on that? They're in a really weird spot. And I'm not trying to make excuses for what they are because they put themselves in this position. They selected their roster. These are the pieces they have. This is where you're at. You're now, 8 weeks into the season. No one's going to feel bad for you. Figure it out. You got to win games. But I do think that makes it difficult as a play caller. I think it makes it difficult for Dylan Raiola. He's got to assess it all real time. How aggressive can I be? How loose can I, it's a tight window, but I know I can get the ball there. Do I do that? Or do I just have to go find the safer play because we might need to go for it on 4th down, and 4th and 2 is better than 4th and 6. So it's just and then the other hidden part of this whole season that's been weird for me to kind of put together, you don't have a quarterback run game. He's not just going to go get you 5 yards. He's not going to, so there's that aspect of it too that challenges, I think, a little bit what you're calling. So I do wonder if they have some kind of confidence issues on offense, that this isn't the kind of game you want to be coming in with sort of confidence issues, because it's not like they can just turn around and hand it to their running backs and go get 175 yards in this game on Saturday. I don't think they have the ability to do that. So they're going to have to be able to pass. They're going to have to be able to control the ball, and they're going to have to hit on some big plays. You're going to have to make big plays on 3rd down. They lack sort of explosion, which is weird to say. I thought they'd be a more explosive offense than they are, but you're not getting explosive run plays unless it's dressed up with Ja'Cory Barney. The explosive pass plays feel like they've kind of come down to where they're more intermediate level, but you're not getting 45-yard chunks, and you're not getting a lot of yards after catch. I don't know if you guys have noticed that, but it's not like you're getting the throws where a guy then just is able to finish it 35 yards away with a touchdown. I mean, they're just in this weird spot where every drive there's this heightened level of tension where you got to score and you can't allow yourself to kick a field goal, and you got to go from, sometimes your own 4-yard line. You got to go get that touch. It's just a lot of pressure, and I don't know that the confidence is at an all-time high, especially coming off of that Rutgers game. I think the bye week was big mentally as much as it was physically. They get a chance to reset, put together new ideas, and put together sort of a game plan to go after this Indiana team. I think they were a little burned out mentally. I really do, because there's been a lot of pressure that maybe we haven't done a good job of assessing that was there on this.
Yeah, like you mean the every week referendum pressure? Or?
Well, that's just where we are with college football. I mean, I don't even think that's a Nebraska
and you know what's funny
anymore
about that, Mike J, is this should be the year that it's lax, because it truly is week to week. Like, there should be no definitive judgments made after one game, because clearly,
we've seen everybody
go through this.
Right. But I just think, and this isn't like a Nebraska fan thing, I just think this is where we are kind of with sports. I mean, we do this with the NFL, and it's the dumbest league to do it with, because the playoffs, when they come around, that truly is, win and go on and lose and go home. Like, that's when your referendums start. It doesn't matter if a team loses a game in week 5 in the NFL. So in college football, where you have an expanded playoff, we shouldn't be as upset when a team drops a game, or we shouldn't be spending so much time like, oh, the SEC looks like this and the Big Ten looks like this. I mean, it's week 8. Like, there's still so much season left. Nebraska had 6 games remaining of varying levels of difficulty, and I expect that they're going to win several of these. And I don't know that it needs to be treated as euphoric when they do, but if they go win on Saturday, like, what's the reaction going to be from people? Is it going to be, all right, this Nebraska team is definitely going in the right direction, huge win on the road against a ranked team? Or are we going to get, and this is what we've seen so far this year, well, they played Indiana and they beat Indiana, even though we built up Indiana to be this behemoth, but then you don't get the credit for actually beating them. I mean, we did that with Rutgers. Rutgers was supposed to be this great team, but now Rutgers is trash. Did you see what they did to Wisconsin? Nebraska couldn't do that.
Oh, my favorite is after Illinois, and Illinois goes, it's like, oh, it's Illinois.
Yeah.
And
again,
then
I
they
don't
go to
think
Penn
this
State,
is a Nebraska
like,
fan
they lost
thing.
a close game, and then it's like, well, how did Illinois give up 49 to Purdue? They must. I'm like, just stop. Like, it's almost impossible to be right.
Well, I just, and again, I don't, it's not a Nebraska fan thing. I just think like we live in a very immediate reaction society. All of us participate in this. We all have our corners of what we do in the sports media, and we put our reactions and everything out there. And it has just become, instead of allowing the season to build upon itself, it has become, this is where we are this week. How are we feeling about it? How's it look for next week? Everything going to be okay? Oh no, they lost a game. Oh no, the defense doesn't look good this time. Like, and it bleeds over into the immediate moments of a game too. It's hard to watch sports this way. I mean, it really is. And I'm guilty of it too. I do it with the Vikings. I mean, every time they're up 17-0 and then the game finishes 23-17, and I'm over here like, man, they blew. This should have been a blowout, blah, blah, blah. But I think that's just the nature of how we intake sports because of the way the media and everything has evolved. I mean, I think we're all participating in immediate reaction, and the immediate reaction is always emotional. It's always swift. And very rarely are you taking the deep breath to be like, okay, these are the important 5 things that came out of it.
Schaefer, if you had to pick a unit that you want to play well on Saturday because you feel it leads most to a win, who is it?
Defense.
Agree.
Because if that defensive line is as good as I think they are, I think they take control of that game and they make Indiana play a version of football they haven't had to play all year. They haven't been put in a physical game like that all season. They've been able to dictate terms. They've been able to get out to leads. They've been able to play their style of football. They put people on ice skates. If Nebraska's and that's what Nebraska did to Colorado. And I know Indiana isn't Colorado. There's differences in what they do and who the personnel are. And there's a big difference between Bloomington and Lincoln and what that environment's going to be like. But your defensive line, your defensive line can set the tone of games. And I think Nebraska's got a defensive line that can do that. And if they come out and they play well on Saturday, the rest of the pieces will fall into place for that defense. And Indiana will have pressure they haven't faced all year. How do they react to that? Maybe it spirals a little bit out of control. What does a game look like for Indiana if they have to come from behind in the second half? What does a game look like for Indiana if it's not just a bunch of easy run plays early and then throws all over the field? I mean, so if Nebraska's defensive line, and I'll go further than just picking a side of the ball, give me that unit. If that unit plays well on Saturday, Nebraska will win that game.
Man, after my heart, I said this is Nebraska's D-line against Indiana's O-line on Monday.
Schaefer, I want to return to a question that we've kind of been asking throughout the day, and we had an Indiana guy on earlier. We asked this too, but do you think the late scoring that Coach Rule brought up with Indiana, it's 80 points in the fourth quarter, it's 52 of those in the fourth quarter of the Power 5 games that they've played in
Northwestern, Indiana, and UCLA, or Illinois, or Maryland, I'm sorry.
And do you look at that and say, hey, that's a team that finishes strong, or that's a team that piles on?
I don't know that I look at it one way or the other. I mean, they're all sort of, unique context for any of them. It's not like against Northwestern, they were bringing their bench in when they were up by 10 points. So it made sense for them. The play goes how it goes and you get a touchdown. I don't know what to make of it. I think that they have an ability to, against inferior opponents, distance themselves that maybe makes the overall score, in the parlance of one Michael Braun, scroll better. But I don't know that it's I certainly didn't think they were 17 points better than Northwestern team. I didn't think that game was a 17-point. I think it was a 17-point difference in that score. But they were able to pull away late. I think some of that has to do with who they played. I mean, I don't want to take things away from Indiana, but they haven't really played good football teams. So they've done what you expect teams to do, and they played their starters deep into games. It's not like you're not pulling Curtis Rourke when they're winning 77-0 or whatever.
He's right. That's what Ken Bikoff said too. He's like, their starters play late. Like he felt like it was a reflection of their coach staying on the gas.
Well, I think they want to, they have to build their program how they want to build their program.
Yep.
And so their idea is, hey, we want you to have this confidence at all parts of the game. We want you to bury somebody. We want you to have that feeling. Like I think that's what Indiana wants to try to build in their program, because they've been kind of beaten down over the years. And so I get it from that perspective, but I think it can be a little bit misleading to a degree.
That's Mike J. Schaefer, Husker 24/7. Schaefer, we appreciate it as always. We'll talk to you next week.
Hey, I want you guys to go get a dub today. I don't need to see Garrett Cole get it going.
I agree. All right, guys, have a good one. Thanks.
Okay, buddy.
We love our Mike J. Schaefer. We also love Big Brothers Big Sisters, which empowers young people through one-to-one mentoring relationships that unlock their full potential. You can make a difference by becoming a big brother, big sister, or big couple. Visit mentoromaha.org to sign up today.
We will be back. 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 You're listening to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Welcome back to Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DBM, Ravi, Lulla. We're live on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. If you want to stream us, or you can catch us on podcast. If you're not here live, it's Apple, Spotify, wherever you can think of. Just come hang out with us.
It's weird. When you look up, it actually looks up on the camera. When you look down, it actually looks down. But if you look left, it's different on the camera.
Yeah, it's mirrored, right?
That's not down, though.
No, it's only mirrored left to right because it only flips it horizontally.
Oh.
Doesn't flip on the vertical axis also.
It's
a
lot of
horizontal,
a lot of science.
Vertical.
So that's not
down.
Really science. What would we call it? Kind of?
Yeah, it's science.
Okay.
It's like, I don't know. It's some kind of science. You know what's not science, though? Betting on it by War Sportsbook.
Well, there's clearly no science to what you were trying to do with fantasy yesterday.
Lots of science.
No, I feel like you were just hunting and pecking. Just
scrolling.
Do
you want to bet on whether or not Davante Adams makes a hill of beans difference in New York?
I am shocked. I'm very shocked.
Why are you shocked?
I just don't think that's what's ailing them.
No.
Your quarterback needs to play. No, are you going to make the case that Davante helps you play better?
I'm guessing that's the case that Aaron Rodgers is making.
Maybe in the red zone so you don't have to kick so many field goals?
Maybe. I don't think that's the – here's why I don't –
what did Zerline attempt last night? 4? Was he 2 of 4?
Yeah, missed 2.
I know he had a couple doinkers.
I think he was just 2 for 4, I think. He only made 2. I know that.
So maybe that's it?
Here's why I'm not surprised. Because we're talking about
We're
talking about an owner who just fired his head coach at the behest of his quarterback. So I don't think it's a stretch for him to go and trade for his best friend or good friend or whatever you want to call Davante Adams.
Surprise, surprise.
In order to also keep that same said quarterback happy. Like Woody Johnson is fully pot committed at this point.
Yeah, I just don't. So I'm going to need you to just not pile on Aaron Rodgers for the moment and think about this objectively.
Can I pile on Woody?
Can
I pile on Woody Johnson?
No,
instead?
but you could say to me, DB, how am I supposed to separate the two? They're one and the same.
Yeah,
but I don't know if that's how you feel.
I do think that I do believe that. I believe that to be true.
Yeah,
I think he is,
which is part of the reason why you're coming down on Rodgers so hard.
Yes, because I think this is who he is and what he does to your team. I think that's part of the reason I look back at Green Bay and I go, maybe Rodgers was more of a problem than we realized.
So what does Milquetoast say or Jacob Padilla say
about that situation? I haven't asked him. I don't think
because I'd be curious.
Yeah,
I'd be curious
because he'll be more objective than I will.
He's a fan though.
It's true, but he can usually still separate. I think.
Yeah, no, I definitely will give you that.
The other thing that the reason I'm partially piling on Woody Johnson here is
that but it also makes it easier that LaFleur appears to be a pretty good coach.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think that part of the reason I'm piling on Woody Johnson here is they also just put out word after trading for Davante Adams that they're going to give Hassan Reddick and his representation a window to negotiate trades with other teams. That's the thing that also just came out.
Weird.
So
how badly can you bungle that situation?
That is
idiotic.
Here's my question. Prior to Aaron going to the Jets,
Tua.
Did the Jets ever make moves before? I mean, because they're making moves left and right now.
No, they're not.
Yeah, they are. I mean, firing the coach, getting Davante Adams. I mean,
oh yeah,
you're trying to trade Hassan Reddick.
You're right. He's right.
Yeah, compared to before, I mean, they're doing something.
So I think they're desperate because they know the time is now.
The time is now. That is correct.
Yeah. How much? How much you paying Sauce Gardner coming up?
I also just they also have, like I said, they're fully pot committed on this Aaron Rodgers thing. So you're either
See, I just so you know why I give you pushback? Because I think it's this year or he's out.
No, but I mean this year, like they have made their bed.
I think last year counted as the Aaron Rodgers window.
I agree. You're going to hear some this because this is what our Jets resident Jets fan Mike Sauter is going to tell us is that he's counting next year too. I don't think next year counts.
I don't think next year counts.
Well, I think it counts in the Jets' minds. I don't think they have a chance. I do think they're going to bring him back again next year. I don't think that makes them any closer to winning the Super Bowl.
Listen, if they flame out this year, I don't see how they can.
You almost have to now, though, because you've gutted everything else.
I don't know what to do. I don't know what the terms of the contract looks like either for Adams. Like, how pot committed are they?
I don't know. But they're trading away assets. And they traded away assets for Hassan Reddick. They traded away assets for Devontae Adams. You don't have a quarterback.
I wonder what you're going to get back with Hassan Reddick.
Are you going to be bad enough? Are you going to be bad enough with Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback that you're going to actually get a good enough draft pick to replace the quarterback?
Now, they're pretty good already. But there's two teams I could see in the Hassan Reddick sweepstakes.
Yeah. I mean, I always wanted to be the 49ers.
The Detroit Lions.
Always.
And the Chicago Bears.
Lions make sense. You're looking for another D lineman after Hutchinson goes out. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. And they needed defensive help anyway.
I mean, and
the Bears are pretty good.
Yeah.
I think the Bears are pretty good.
Defensively, their red zone defense is incredible.
Yeah, I mean, those teams, man, the NFC North would be.
It's loaded.
Yeah.
There's nobody I'm like chomping at the bit to go play over there.
Not excited about it? You're like, nah, we're cool.
No.
You guys can stay over there on the NFC side?
I mean, they're listen, they're physical.
Yeah, they are.
You know, they look a lot like the team that hammered Shane's Raiders.
Let's. I do want to.
No big deal.
I do want to go through a few teams here. Two of them are in the NFC North.
Why?
Because I'd like to bet on who we think right now today is the best team in the NFL.
It's Ravi.
There's two in the NFC North. Lions and Vikings. They're candidates.
So can I get specific with you?
Yeah.
I probably trust Detroit more.
Can I give you my all five candidates?
Yes.
Lions, Vikings, Texans, Ravens, Chiefs.
Texans are out.
Okay.
They're the fifth.
Okay.
I will go Minnesota fourth.
Okay. You said you trust the Lions the most out of.
I'm going to take the Lions third.
Okay.
The Chiefs second and the Ravens first.
Do you think the Ravens are the best team in football right now?
Yeah.
Do you trust them going forward the most?
So
or do you just think they're playing
everybody gets the caveat but the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
So
because the Chiefs are the only ones that have done it out of that group.
Yeah, and they have. It doesn't matter what it looks like for them. They're just going
to win.
They just win.
100%. Yeah.
Like I fully believe.
I don't think the Chiefs have looked that good.
No, they haven't.
Right.
But
that's the dirty little secret. But they're 5-0.
And
they got Patrick Mahomes.
They have the best combination of everything.
Yep.
So
you got the quarterback.
They have
the head coach combination.
No drama ever comes out of that camp. We tried to make the Kelsey thing something.
Not just Kelsey, but Butker.
The Chiefs didn't. That was really nothing. That was one of the dumbest non-stories ever.
But it was
a conservative at a Christian college. Ooh, color me.
Said things that a conservative at a Christian college are going to say.
Color me traumatized.
You think the people in that locker room didn't know who Harrison Butker was?
Yeah, like that was a non.
We tried to make a deal with Harrison Butker. We've tried to make a deal with Kelsey. So we've tried to make a deal with Brittany Mahomes.
Consistency of the message.
Mm-hmm.
They do what they do. I think they have an incredible front office. They got the best quarterback in the league. They got a really good head coach. Why don't I put them one? Do you know why? Because I just think at some point you bringing knives to a gunfight all the time should matter.
Like what Juju Smith-Schuster.
Like what are they doing?
I thought it mattered last year and it didn't. I thought it would matter last year and it didn't.
So that's the only thing that keeps me from.
Yeah.
Because I think if the Ravens are playing at their best and the Chiefs are playing at their best, that Ravens roster, you could make the case is better, especially as the wide receivers continue to develop.
So you're betting on
the only reason, because you asked me right now, right?
100%.
So I don't have to factor in the fact that
Lamar
may wet the bed in the playoffs.
Right.
So I don't have to factor.
No,
that
just
in.
today.
Yeah, give me Ravens and the Chiefs.
I could buy that. I mean, the Chiefs haven't looked that good.
Give me Ravens and the Chiefs. Now, the thing I think is the most impressive about the Chiefs is, and I said this last week, it doesn't matter what style of game it is.
Yes, which is scary.
I think they could win a low-scoring slugfest. I think they could win a shootout.
When you have a team that can,
and they'd be throwing to me and you.
Literally, I
Well,
mean,
that would be a game where Kelsey would have 11 catches, and you'd be like, "Oh, he's back."
We might be next on the call sheet. Honestly, they don't have a lot of options.
It doesn't matter to them though.
That's the thing that is scary about the Chiefs. But if you want to go by just how it looks like, you could make an argument the Lions have looked better than they have.
Yeah, the Lions fundamentally have some flaws though.
Sure,
they're still a little too high risk, high reward for me.
That's fair. But if you wanted to make that argument, I'd listen.
Yeah, no, for me too. And I put them ahead of the Vikings, and you're skirting pom-pom in the Vikings.
Love the Vikings.
I do love the Vikings.
We're a Sam Darnold show. That's Bet On It, brought to you by Warhorse Sportsbook. Get to warhorsecasino.com to see all the events and details of what they've got going on over there. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We'll wrap up the show coming up next with Chris Solari covering Michigan State here on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
We will be back. We will be back. We will be back. Welcome to Hurrdat Sports Radio.
Play action. Brace got tied up. Gabriel on the roll. He'll throw back. End zone. Intercepted. Malik Spencer. Flashed in front for a huge pick.
Goes the other way and it's intercepted. Darquez Denard all the way home. Touchdown Spartans.
Wrapping up the show here on a Tuesday. Hurrdat Sports Radio, AM 590, ESPN Omaha, ESPN Tri-Cities, KFOR in Lincoln. That's DB. I'm Ravi Lulla. We're joined now by Chris Solari. He covers Michigan State for the Detroit Free Press. Chris, how are you this morning?
I'm doing great, guys. Feels like just yesterday I was there at Kinnick for that wild game a year ago, watching punt return go the other way. And I mean, so it's hard to believe how much has changed in this Michigan State program in that time.
It's like, so one of the reasons why we wanted our producer to try to grab you is it seems like, and you're closer to it, which is why we're talking to you, this team may be on a better track than their record or the aesthetics say. Fact or fiction?
I think that's fact. I also hesitate to say that just simply because I think you see that there is, especially the depth is thin. I think the transfer portal really thinned things out after the Mel Tucker firing and the coaching change with Jonathan Smith and trying to refill the coffers, if you will. The top level is pretty good. It's also pretty young, and I think you've seen a lot of hallmarks of a talented team that is just trying to figure out how to mesh, how to play at the college level, Dayton Childs in particular. But I do think that the future also looks a lot better than maybe it did even 2 years ago before all the stuff went down with Tucker, just simply because I think Jonathan Smith has taken more of the Mark D'Antonio approach to this. He's talked a lot about reestablishing Michigan State as a developmental program. And I mean, let's face it, that's what Mark D'Antonio and his staff did. They took those 2-3-star guys, sometimes 1-star, sometimes no stars, like Jack Conklin, turn them into all Big Ten players and build Big Ten champions. And Smith and his guys have done a really good job of reinvesting in the recruitment of Ohio, which is the thing that baffles me the most about the Mel Tucker era is how a guy from Cleveland who played at Wisconsin abandoned those areas and didn't really go after that second layer of talent that historically has built Michigan State into its best teams. But Smith and his staff recognize that he's got a couple guys from Ohio on there. He's got a couple guys with ties to Wisconsin. He's got a couple guys with ties to other states in the Midwest, like Pittsburgh area. And he, you know, for a guy that never coached west or east of the Mississippi, he gets it. And I think he gets a lot of the idea of what Michigan State is from his time at Oregon State, where, you know, as a player, as a coach there, you know, you're, I don't want to say second tier, but you're the second dog to the Ducks up there. And you're always fighting with that chip on the shoulder. So I think he's got a lot of that vibe of D'Antonio coming back a little bit.
Chris, you know, I hear you talk about being a developmental program. You know, I'm fully aware of Jonathan Smith's track record at Oregon State. Is Michigan State, I guess, both from the athletic department administration and from the fan base, prepared to be patient with this process?
I think that they almost have to, and I think in part because the way things went with Tucker, there was, I guess you could kind of say, too much too fast in a way, because he went, you know, after D'Antonio retires in February of 2020, and it was after all the coaches' meetings, right the day before signing day in 2020. So that put Michigan State in a really tough position to hire the next coach. They bring in Tucker. pandemic happens. 2020, they're really bad. And he just guts the roster. And really, if you want to go back, and I think we're going to look back on this historically, it's really going to be the first test case of the use of the portal as we're seeing it now, weaponized and used to completely overhaul a roster. I mean, Dion took it to the next level at Colorado, but Tucker in that 2021 year really reset Michigan State's roster, and they got the Kenneth Walker year. They went 10-2. They were competing for a Big Ten title, finished top 10, but it wasn't sustainable because it was a one-year bump. You know, with how much you went into the portal, it was a little too much too fast, I think, and it was real bad and it went south in a hurry. So I think there's a cautionary tale there for the administration, for the fans, that, you know, you got to kind of have that patience. You got to, Mark D'Antonio, he wasn't winning Big Ten titles in year 1, 2, or 3. It's when he got to year 4, 5, and beyond that he put together that 5, 6, 7-year run there where they were competing for Big Ten titles. So I think there's a recognition of that, and you almost have to be a little more patient. And it's hard to now with the immediacy that the portal can bring, right? And let's face it, they did go out and in many ways have to bring in a bunch of guys from the portal this class, brought in a couple guys, key guys from Oregon State that I think really have kind of set the tone for the now and for the future of this program. But they also recognize that you've got to be able to get those guys in this region that has so much talent from Ohio to Pittsburgh to Chicago and build your program that way if you want to sustain it and be in that upper echelon of the Big Ten right now.
Chris, nobody better to ask a conversation we've been having this morning, and this is on the heels of Nebraska getting ready to play Indiana and football success at a basketball school. You're right there in the thick of it as arguably the greatest debate of football versus basketball school in terms of perception. When going to get Jonathan Smith, who you could make the case outside of Fish was probably the best hire given what was going on in all the movement in college football. I felt like both those hires flew under the radar for really, really good hires. Did it take a certain temperament or a certain style of a coach to have success at East Lansing, given the fact and the perception of it being a hoop school?
You know, I think to a certain extent, and that's the difference maybe between Michigan State and Indiana, right, is...
I mean, you guys have actually had football success, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you talk about, I mean, this was a powerhouse in the 50s and 60s. I'm talking, I mean, the Duffy Doherty and Biggie Munn era. This was, and people around here still remember and recognize that. This was a behemoth. I mean, this program, the football success is what got them into the Big Ten in 53. You know, Biggie Munn and the president at the time, John Hanna, banked that football success to finally, after about 50 years, get into the Big Ten with Michigan and Ohio State and all the powers that be. And, you know, so there is going to be a little bit different of a feel, I think, here maybe than Indiana. But you do, you know, and I think it helps at Michigan State when your basketball coach is probably the biggest football cheerleader there is. Yeah. I mean, you know, Izzo took his team up to the Upper Peninsula over the weekend for an exhibition game with his alma mater, Northern Michigan. And you walk around, and they played in the football dome up there. 11,000 people, 12,000 people, one of the most incredible events that I've seen. And they've played in a lot of incredible events for Izzo. But I spent the Friday night before that in his hometown of Iron Mountain and went to the football game and talked with the football coaches and everything. Izzo is just a different breed of guy, right? I mean, he would be coaching football if it wasn't for basketball. So I think that does help immeasurably, and he's going to be not just a champion, but a guy that can talk X's and O's. I mean, listen, Steve Mariucci's his best friend. He's got connections in the NFL and at the highest ranks of pro sports. Nick Saban and him both came into Michigan State together in '95. They've been close since they were assistants in the 80s at MSU. So there's a lot of connections football-wise that are going to help Jonathan Smith from the basketball office. That's a rarity. I think that's a rarity anywhere you look.
On the surface, this looks like a really tricky game for Iowa, in my opinion, where wouldn't surprise me. It's a tight line, relatively speaking, and it's Michigan State, and it's a program on the rise. Does the fan base see it that way in preparation for this one?
It's a weird moment for them because I think the 3-0 start really re-energized them, and in the last 3 games, particularly the Boston College game, I think, kind of took a little wind out of that sails. I think there's still optimism for the future. I think there's just a little bit of, what are we and where are we right now? Because Aiden Childs is probably the most talented quarterback I've seen at Michigan State. From a raw standpoint, I wasn't here for the Drew Stanton era. I was gone for that, but just simply my time around, from 95 to now, he's right there with Stanton probably as the most talented quarterback, but he's also so green and so young. He's just turned 19, and he's little. He's one of those guys that can do a lot of things, but sometimes those guys that can do a lot of things sometimes can do too much, and he's still learning that. And when that light clicks on for him, when that switch flips for the offense, I think you watch out. So it could happen at any point. I mean, this bye week that they're coming out of could have been a great reset moment for them. But you're right. I think listen, that game last year at Kinnick that we were talking about, if Michigan State wins that, and if they don't give up that punt return at the end, that team could have gone to a bowl game. I mean, that was the margin of error last year there, and I understand that McNamara got hurt in the first quarter, and that changed the dynamic for Iowa. I mean, that changed the dynamic for Iowa in that game, but the rest of the season. They were right there, and that team last year was, to say in shambles, probably doesn't really get to the core of it, especially going into that Iowa game when they're on a plane to Iowa City and they have their NIL deal pulled from the NIL collective. I mean, I was reading a story in one of the nationals that there was talk of a boycott of that game. That game almost didn't get played. I mean, think about that.
That's Chris Solari from the Detroit Free Press. We appreciate Chris joining us. That's the show for today. We'll be back tomorrow on Hurrdat Sports Radio.
See you. Have a good day. Love you.